1 year ago, I made a video breaking down the entire Sonic.exe timeline, from the humble beginnings of a story about a haunted Sonic game, to a real fan-made game, to an entire genre of fan games. But even though I spoke about a lot of games, I never took the time to experience many of them. But today, that changes. Because we're going to play, review, and rank over 50 Sonic.exe games, from S all the way to F, to find the very best and the absolute worst. We're going to be checking out some well-known classics, some masterpiece hidden gems, and way too many horrible nightmares. We've got a lot of games to play. So let's get to it, starting with... This is the place it all began, with Sonic.exe by MystiCrimson, an almost one-for-one adaptation of the game originally depicted in the Sonic.exe creepypasta. That fresh concept carried it a really long way. Without it, this video would likely not exist, but is it actually any good, or have new tools for casual game creation left it in the dust? You play as 3 characters, Tails the Fox, then Knuckles the Echidna, and finally Eggman the Human. You have a jump button, no spoilers, you will not need it. Knuckles also has a punch, but the only thing you can do that actually matters is move left or right. There are no obstacles and there are no challenges. It is a walking tour of a spooky Sonic-themed haunted house, funneling you from one scare to the next. You can beat the entire game by just pressing right on the keyboard. However, if you wanted to enter the secret levels and attain the much sought-after secret ending, you must engage with both that left key and even jump a few times. I'm taking the piss, but the secret levels accessed by going left when you see the bodies on Tails level, when you start with Knuckles, and once you see the stairs with Eggman, are the best parts of the game. Collect the black rings that shout die when you collect them, and you get to play as Sonic, the game pulling your name from your computer's user file, but mine has a typo, which is genius accidental comedy. The names Sonic.exe tells you are his previous victims are also the names of characters from the original Sonic.exe canon. Kyle, the first victim in the original story, and Alice, the protagonist of the 3rd story, which is now lost media. There are also mentions of Gary and Jake, which are 2 of the game designer's college friends. The scares themselves are okay, and credit is due to the varied methods the game uses to scare you. There are jump scares, sure, but there are also long, eerie moments to build your anxiety among an atmosphere of sheer helplessness. That blue blur is inevitable. Visually, I'm not angry about this game. Sure, there's some reuse of sprites and textures mostly ripped straight from real Sonic games, but it at least feels mostly cohesive. I do, however, love some of the rolling hypnotic backgrounds in the secret levels. It was quite buggy. I remember watching Markiplier play this game in like 2015 and managing to get Eggman running backwards down the stairs, but the funny thing is you can just argue any bug is the game becoming self-aware. It's totally intentional, dude, I promise. Regardless, it's been updated multiple times since its first release, and I encountered no issues at all. All in all, a quaint experience that comes together well enough. I'll give it a C, passing grade. That might turn out to be a very confident score. Like, that leaves a lot of space above it, not that much below. So, I'm really hoping that most of these games are better than this one, and if they're not, that's gonna be, it's gonna be fun. Sonic Editable ROM, to give it one of its several names, is our 2nd game, created by artist Tower161 and game developer Cloudy Jolt. We will now be meeting face to face with the being known as Sonic.EYX. This game is the first of several we'll be playing that were created as part of a game jam challenge for Luigi Kid, a YouTuber whose content focuses on all things EXE. Every now and again, when someone throws together a new game, they'll develop their own lore and even their own permutation of Sonic.exe, and that's exactly what Sonic.EYX is. But forget all that. Is the game good? The controls are clean and feel good, with only some very minor nitpicks. There is a full-fledged Sonic level in here, with enemies, loop-de-loops, jump pads, speed-ups, power-ups. Tails can frickin' fly over the whole level. Look at him go. Bye, Tails. Can't complain about gameplay. If you like classic Sonic, this is that. It's just a shame I'm really bad at it and never build up any speed. So you start as Tails and have to get to the end of the stage, meet Sonic, and track all the way back to get jumped by EYX. Follow this with a cutscene of this guy who is... hang on, let me check my notes. Ray the Flying Squirrel, which is a real Sonic character. Don't get too attached. You then get a little bit of playtime with Sonic before EYX has a little bit of playtime with your intestines, and we finish out playing as Tails once again, but he's haggard and looks like he hasn't shaved in days, which brings us to one of this game's strongest aspects, the absolutely killer art. From design to execution, this EXE character is a big freak. He's gangly, he's scarred, and he's got one big ol' eye. Even beyond that, the levels look crisp as a tube of Pringles. Visually, no notes. And the scares? Also top tier stuff. Some great jump scares, some fabulous tension. But this does lead me into my one main complaint with the game, which is an over-reliance on cutting to an image and holding it for a really long time. There were probably 4 or 5 points where I started slapping my keyboard, unsure if I was supposed to press to progress. The game ends with a more to come in the next update notice, but I doubt it because this game was cancelled. You're gonna get sick of me saying that because if anything, it's more impressive when one of these games gets finished. The game designer Cloudy Jolt has stepped away from the project and Cow161 is rewriting all the lore, but it's been like 2 years, so maybe not. I don't know. I think this was a really fun game with some wonderful ideas, art, and atmosphere. I'm saving the S tier slot for the single best Sonic.exe game, but this is pretty high up there. It's going in the A tier for now. The next one I chose was Sonic.DMG. I chose it because it looked like meme game trash and I wanted to set an expectation of the full quality spectrum we should expect from the beginning. But here's the thing. I didn't hate this game that much. I actually don't think I hated this game at all. It's pretty one-to-one parody of the original Sonic.exe game with a lot of rug pulls and memes. The art style is intentionally completely dissonant. The audio is all funny clips pulled from other games, but I don't know. Sometimes it was kind of funny. Not with the memes, but with the Sonic.exe parody moments. You know, how Eggman has to walk down all those stairs in the original to go meet Sonic. What if he walks up a few flights and then Sonic ooga boogas him down a comedically long staircase? That made me chuckle. In the original game, there's a section where you keep getting duked by Sonic teleporting around you over and over again so that you can't hit him. It goes on way too long, and the obvious joke would be to make it go on for a ridiculous amount of time, but no, instead, no joke is ever unnecessarily drawn out. It's respectful of the player. I don't feel like the joke is on me for playing this game. Graphically, yeah, it's a mess, and there's not much to say, but some of the proprietary art is decent, like Tails here. Eggman does look like he's got his big grey balls hanging out, but ignoring that, I can tell what I'm looking at. The controls are like the most responsive so far. I know that's crazy, but it might be true. The fact that you can hold the jump or attack key and it will reuse the action as soon as the previous animation finishes feels a little cheap, but it does let it feel snappy and led to my discovery of Knuckles' super move, the jump dash attack. And even the level design is way better than it has any right to be. At the start of Knuckles' level, after you move right a bit, a sign will tell you how to attack, but if you go left and enter the secret level, you won't see that. So there's a sign at the beginning here too. That's very player-friendly and intelligent game design. Why is this, like, kinda good? Whatever, it's getting an A, which is way higher than makes any sense. It's not as good as EYX, but it's pretty much exactly what I would want out of a Sonic.exe parody. Sally.exe is the official follow-up to Sonic.exe by the original designer, MrCrimson, or at least it was at the time. However, this game, unlike the original, is not an adaptation of the original creepypasta canon, and instead of the story Regret by Jorosu Oni, except Jorosu plagiarized that entire story from a YouTube video by someone known as Chinolin. The game, though, what's it like? Well, the controls are okay. The visuals are once again basically just nabbed from official Sonic games. The gameplay is not even as good as the original, if I'm being honest, and it's incredibly short. No hidden secrets, all press right to proceed. A full playthrough clocks in at something like 2.5 minutes. I genuinely might be able to show you the entire thing during this description. You once again play as 3 characters, except this time it's the ladies of Sonic. Amy Rose the Hedgehog, Cream the Rabbit, and Sally Acorn the, I assume, Squirrel. Amy dies in a secret level, Cream runs into a spike wall, and Sally gets her eyes sewn shut. I said before the Cream death is surprisingly effective due to its sudden finality in juxtaposition to the happy level it takes place in. Because of the controversy around the original story, Crimson has discontinued the game, and so it didn't get any of the updates the original got, and it's not very good. Also, and honestly, most importantly, I could not close the game. Alt F4 did not work, Task Manager couldn't detect the program to be able to end it, and instead, I had to shut down my entire computer just to make it shut up. Arguably, this makes it the most haunted of all the EXE games. Arguably, this makes it the most haunted of all the EXE games, but I'm absolutely not giving it that credit, and in case it is haunted, please could you chuck me a prayer in the comments and maybe drop a like while you're down there so I can keep making more of these videos. I'm really working for things to say. Gameplay is not great. Visuals are passable, but honestly, more clashing than the original. Scares are non-existent. I'm gonna say it. This is our first fail. A D. Sorry, Crimson. Sonic.VHS. I'm not going to lie to you, this one's basically just a freebie for me. So, the original Sonic.exe is a 40 megabyte file. This one is 4 megabytes. While this is, in a sense, basically the same story and game, it has somehow managed to strip out 90% of the experience. Gameplay is walk right and sometimes very slowly. Art is terrible. It's all of the same stuff ripped from the real Sonic games and nothing else. The animations are also a mess. It looks like Eggman has 4 legs. What's wrong with him? Obviously, no secret levels, but you can jump over Sonic when he chases Tails, so there's that. I'd be frothing mad if it wasn't 1.5 minutes long. At least it didn't waste my time. D. F is being saved for the absolute worst game, and I feel like we can find something less redeemable than this. Sonic.exe One More Time is created by Mr. Pixel, community legend and controversial figure. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a brief bit of lore because OMT, or Outbreak Malware Threat, has a little bit more going on than some of his contemporaries. There was once a being born into a world composed of pure energy, and during a nuclear station meltdown, that world became connected to our own, allowing this entity to pass through. Now in our world, this entity began to feast on energy, developing a fascination with humans all the while. He snuck into the power grid, into computer networks, and learned of something called Sonic.exe, a story about a haunted game that killed its creator. OMT, being a Sonic fan, like most people, found his way into the computer of someone developing a Sonic.exe game. OMT had come to realize that the greatest form of energy was the human soul, and that energy was molded by its emotions. Now, inside the game file, OMT added his own assets and finished the game. When this developer returned and found his game impossibly completed, OMT dragged his soul into the game, his to torment, feeding on his favorite emotion, fear. Then he sent the game back out into the web for other users to find, play, and be consumed. And that is where we find ourselves. Gameplay-wise, it sticks very much to the original Sonic.exe design. Tails, Knuckles, Eggman, death, 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 Sonic, torment, death. But there's some alterations that make a lot of difference to the experience. First off, the controls feel a lot smoother, but do come with some of their own problems. Shift is the key allocated to jumping, and while in step with the original game you don't need to jump, if your little gremlin brain just wants to jump a few times, you'll inevitably be struck by sticky keys, which is why most games stick with spacebar or Z. I'm also not really a fan of the stop-start structure of levels. The game closes itself 4 separate times before you'll get to the end, and I think it's distracting, taking the player out of the experience more than anything. In both Tails and Knuckles levels, you will start moving only to cut to black, pause, and then be dumped into a new area, which is jarring. The level design is still press right to progress and just experience the visuals, but those visuals are where the game does truly shine. The game is more than anything a graphical overhaul of the original, and look at all of this sprite art, these animations, they are gory and glorious. Glorious. God, I'm good, damn. The scares themselves live somewhere in the mid-range of effectivity, not differing hugely from the original game other than improved art, which means if you've played the original, you know exactly what to expect and when. I will give one piece of credit. however, to this screen where OMT attacks your computer after you lose with the first 3 characters. All these pop-ups have to be closed, and once they are, the game reopens itself like 15 times, which was some fun boundary-breaking interactivity. Also, here's a fun Easter egg. On the 3rd time you open the game after losing with Eggman, you will see a game over screen, and that music in the background is the music from Sally.exe's game over screen. I remember because I couldn't stop it for 5 straight minutes. Overall, I have mixed feelings on this one, but with art that good, it's earned at least a place in the B tier. Don't worry though, this is not the last we'll see of Sonic.omt. Forever.exe is an odd one. To find these games, I basically went on GameJolt, searched for Sonic.exe and went down the list. Forever.exe is a parody of another game called Whiskas.exe, which I haven't played, which makes this a weird experience. Visuals, bad. Animations, just trash. Tails doesn't even ball up when he jumps, he just floats into the air. Also, remember how Sonic.VHS was 4 megabytes? This game is 240. It's literally the biggest game file we've played so far, and it looks like this. Music and sound, surprisingly decent, actually. Shift is jump again, which is always an absolute bane, but the level design is, one of the best so far? None of it feels good, and the difficulty isn't tuned right for how nasty these controls are, but there's gain in here, there's obstacles to overcome. There's clearly secrets to be achieved by beating them. So far, the most interesting gameplay came from Sonic.DMG and this one, meaning the parody games are the most challenging. Structurally, the game is the original Sonic.exe and Sally.exe presented in one package. Play the characters in order, die horribly, but each one has a different minigame, a jumping puzzle, a maze, a freaking quiz. I really wish I could level select instead of playing the whole game over again, because I really want to beat that quiz. But I'm not going through all of the rest of the game just to have another ill-fated go. I have an at least passing interest in re-attempting the levels. This is the first game to achieve that. But it also does look and play like Swampy Taint. It's not getting above a C, but it's getting a C somehow. And Whiskas.exe is getting added to the list. Dissipated Hedgehog was made by Teo for the Luigi Kid Challenge 2022. First off, from the moment you hit go, the presentation is top notch. Listen to the sound, look at the scan lines, everything about this screams Sega Mega Drive game because that's exactly what it's supposed to be. This is Sonic 2. The gameplay is on point, responsive controls, clean animations, everything feels good, just like a Sonic game should. Shift is still jump. I've turned off sticky keys. There, I've turned it off. You don't have to hear me complain anymore, but I still don't like it. We begin in Sky Chase Zone atop Tails' plane, the tornado, and I'll be damned if this isn't some smooth-ass gameplay. No notes. Beat the level and progress to Wing Fortress Zone where some bullets whiz by and the plane falls out of the sky and you die. You're actually not supposed to. You're supposed to jump and escape the plane with Sonic as Tails carries on his descent. I'm sure he'll be fine though. When you fail the jump here, you will see that Tails looks a little mopey on the title screen, bless him. Carry on a little bit and the game freezes and we see Tails falling through the sky. He's gonna be okay though, right? I don't think he's gonna be okay. You will then watch Eggman fly past and Sonic will wonder where Tails is, like he didn't just watch his plane plummet out of the sky. You'll have to head through the secret level and it looks and plays incredibly well, but you can't complete your objective because there's no rings and then... Guys, I think this might not actually be an official Sega game. And now you enter Emerald Hill Zone where you'll find the tornado crashed and a trail of blood which ends in Tails' corpse. Finally, we arrive at a cliffside where a distraught Sonic has no zoom left in him and he lays down, plagued by memories of his best friend. I walked you all the way through that because there was a story there, an evolution of events, and one different from the EXE games we've seen before. Before you try and argue this doesn't count as an EXE game, the final screen of Tails asking over and over again why you left him is clearly haunted. There's a ghost in the game, it counts. This one is really top tier. I'm really struggling to decide whether it's above EYX or not. The presentation is truly immaculate, and honestly, it feels even better than EYX in its slightly laggy jumps. But then again, the art in EYX is more interesting. In Dissipated, it's mostly copies of real Sonic stuff, so there's only so many points I can give it. I'm gonna do it. I'm placing this above EYX. Still don't think it gets the S, though. We'll see. Okay. Real talk for a second. I'm going to get real critical with some of these games, and I'm going to exaggerate some of my opinions to keep things fun and entertaining, but the bottom line is that these are free games people made for fun. I might not enjoy playing them, I might get frustrated, and I might make mean jokes, but if you made something and put it out into the world for people to enjoy, or to give you criticism, that's something you should be proud of. With that said, Sonic by Saneksez is not a good game. It is a frustrating experience from a gameplay perspective. Visually, it's largely unappealing. Several of the textures clash, specifically those that are pixel art or an asset copied from another game clashing against the developer's own amateur artwork. The intentions listed on the game jolt page of this being a game that reacts and remarks on the player's choices and actions has clearly not been realized, and it would appear the developer has abandoned development. This is a Sonic.exe game that finishes immediately after you lose as Tails. There is no Sonic or Eggman section. The only thing that makes it stand out from other Sonic.exe games is the gameplay section where you must platform across an ocean of blood using Tails' flight. Unfortunately, the camera is way too close to the character for you to be able to see where you're landing before it is already far too late, and the movement is so slidey you might skid off your tiny platform even if you do land. I was not even able to get beyond this section, as the door to the exit I think has to be spin dashed through, and I don't know how to do that. I only know because I watched someone else play the game. This is a bad game. It is not fun, it is frustrating, and although I have chastised several other games for their lack of gameplay, no gameplay is still better than frustrating gameplay. This game gets a D because I couldn't even finish it, but the developer is clearly an amateur, someone making games for fun and to get better. And while there'll be more games to come for which I'll have meaner things to say, just know that if I talk about your game, I think you should be proud of it no matter what, because you made something and let people see it. And that's pretty cool. Chronic.Kush by Matt, I guess, is absolutely unbearable. It is an intentional joke game full of awful memes and drug references, haha, very funny. You start as Osaka from Azumanga Daioh in a world of repeating Family Guy backgrounds until you bump into Chronic and Peter tells you about crack. Then you play as Denji from Chainsaw Man in Knuckles stage, except what's usually blood is cum, haha. And then you play as the Pizza Tower Man from Pizza Tower, then the game screams at you a couple times and leaves you on a screen where a slowed down clip of someone explaining how they're violently ejaculating across the walls plays. If this game sounds up your alley, please feel free to stay at home until you are no longer like that anymore. F. Let us hope nothing manages to be worse than this. Sonic.ERR has so much lore, and I quite genuinely don't know why or what for, and I mean the character, not this game, because this game is quite simple. Originally created by Jose Fausto 13 before ownership changed hands repeatedly due to some sort of controversy, this Sonic game was built for the Luigi Kid Challenge in 2021. In lore, it is a corrupted version intended for the Tokyo Toy Show, I think is what I'm getting from the wiki. Because it was infected with this error, it was abandoned until it was picked up by Sega employees to be used in a game called Sonic Nightmare, compiling some of the old games together. This got shelved and eventually leaked in 2020 when it floated around the internet and sucked some human souls into the game. Now, you are playing, and playing with those human souls, your characters. Once they've all been consumed, your soul is next. Did you get all that? Because I'm frankly still lost, but oh well, hit play, let's go. Sprite work is very good, and all of it appears to be original. These are not just sprites compiled direct from Sonic games, they are entirely new, which is pretty neat. It all looks and feels very good, there's some great little animations in there, but honestly, the standout is the sound design. Listen to EXE's laugh. Top-notch stuff. The story is the same as the original Sonic.exe, but instead of those secret levels to find, it just does the same as OMT and presents you with the Sonic level once you restart the game a couple times. It is once again basically a graphical overhaul of Sonic.exe. I can't really come up with too much else to say. Oh, I know, I'll tell you some more lore. This variant of X started out like all variants of X that came from the void. However, this one ended up gaining access to our world early, and thanks to its version of the Cult of X, who was killed by this beast, it is now getting the upper hand to anything that stands in its way, now a hazard to avoid. Does that help clear anything up for you? I should add that yes, Sonic.exe does have an in-universe cult following of human people who want to see him take over the world. He also has 7 guardians. It's a whole thing. Really just go watch my other video to get the lowdown on the lore. For now, this one gets a B. Pretty good, but not exactly reinventing the wheel. Sonic.2.exe is quite an interesting one, because this is one of the old boys. This was made in 2014, the original game having been published in 2013. The creator, Novaware, describes it as an unofficial prequel to Sonic.exe, filling in some backstory. It comes with a Windows Media video file that explains Eggman has kidnapped Tails, and if Sonic doesn't get him the Chaos Emeralds, he will kill Tails. The Chaos Emeralds being a MacGuffin in the Sonic world, the Dragon Balls in Dragon Ball, the 3 pieces of the Triforce, yada yada. Sonic has run out of time. Let the game begin, and you begin as Tails in Last Chance. There is a little bit of platforming to do here. Controls are mostly responsive, extra jump, no flight, but running uninterrupted for a few seconds gives you a speed boost. You'll need to drop below this level to get to the exit, and once you do, Tails will spawn into the next stage and fall into a pit of spikes. We then cut into a Sonic stage. Moving past some bloody mess, we bump into Tails, but his eyes are missing, and in their place, just gaping bloody sockets. Cut to black and back into a world of static and screams. This stage is called Sunshine, a reference to the Resort Island theme from Sonic kart racer Sonic.RIBS. And indeed, that is the music playing in the background when the stage suddenly cuts to an eyeless Tails in a dim, blood-bathed corridor. We smash cut into Tails and see the words, "There is no sunshine." My reading is Sonic ran out of time, Tails was sent into a trap by Eggman, and Sonic is haunted by his ghost, or perhaps a manifestation of his own guilty conscience. This doesn't lead very well into Sonic.exe though. I can't see how this sets it up, and even reading into the lore doesn't particularly help. The extended lore of this game explains that when Eggman had Tails captured, he was contacted by an entity that had been watching, a demon. It tricked Eggman, telling him that Sonic would be history if Eggman could just give him a host to inhabit. The demon was Zalgo, a name you may or may not recognize, an internet urban legend all of its own. He was basically an early internet Cthulhu. Comics were once abound in which just saying the name Zalgo would turn the world into Lovecraftian decay. I know that's a lot of backstory to dump out, but the point is this eldritch horror was given Tails' body as a host, and once he was in the world of Sonic, he destroyed Eggman, took his soul, and moved on to take Sonic's. So it explains why those are your 3-player characters in .exe. Zalgo trapped their souls. Obviously, in that game, he's taken the body of Sonic as host and not Tails, so I don't really know what's supposed to have happened there, to be honest. Considering Sonic.2.exe was released not a year after the original game, it deserves credit for including some level of gameplay, a new story, and an overall better user experience, but that experience is honestly quite thin, it being a very short game, going very light on the scares, failing to build too much tension, really. I was originally conflicted whether to give it a B or C, but the more I think about it, the more I think it has to be a C. I will give it an edge over the original game, though. Sunshine.exe is the direct follow-up to Sonic.2.exe. It is a second prequel, and all that lore I explained last time, that's what the video file attached to this game explains. The game itself, well, I'll be so real, it was quite poor. More complex platforming meant getting to try out the controls a bit more and realizing how flawed they are. See, you move quite quickly, but you conserve no momentum, at least in the air, as you do skid to a stop on the ground. In the air, you can be going full speed left and in one frame and one click be going full speed right. If you stop pressing anything, you will drop directly down. This does become manageable, but the platforms are set up in a way that means that you don't want to move at full speed. You want to take your time and measure each jump. We're in the levels Tails started in the last game, except we can see our body impaled on the spikes. In his world, Tails can't die, only be tormented for eternity by Zalgo. Get across this platforming section and Sonic will warn you it's a trap and Zalgo jump scares you. Game over, that's it. Falling into the void or meeting Zalgo plays this audio clip that definitely sounds like a super compressed child roaring. This game does get a prestigious award though. It has done something only one other game has managed to pull off so far. It forced me to restart my PC in order to close it. At one point, I landed right on the edge of a platform and the game couldn't decide if I was on or off. In this situation, it would seem the game keeps track of how far you should have fallen while it configures whether you made the jump, and when it decides you didn't, it drops you where you would otherwise have been. In this case, that took long enough that when I was teleported downwards, I went past the bottom of the screen, which is the point where it kills you, and instead I lived. Who knows where Tails is now, perhaps falling eternal, or perhaps on a platform just below the screen. I could still move right, so I did that and reached the end of the stage. However, the stage did not end. I could not move, and there is no menu to close the game. The game cannot be closed from the taskbar or with Alt F4. Task Manager would have worked if it hadn't been pulled up in a window behind Sunshine.exe. Indeed, Sunshine.exe demands to be the center of attention at all times, and thus you cannot see or interact with any other windows that share its monitor, so I could not get to Task Manager. The only thing I could do was end the recording, save all my work, and shut down. Also, once I got the game back online, I tried doing a run without dying, now I was used to the controls, and beat it in exactly 2 minutes beginning to end. I honestly expected more from this game. I'm pretty sure it's well remembered, but it's bad. D. Bad, Sunshine. Bad. And what else can we do but finish off the trilogy with Insanity.exe? This time the video explains that all remaining hope lies with one little fox. The other two trapped souls deserving their punishment, Eggman for being a little stinker and Sonic for abandoning his friend. We open with Tails in his plane. We have to weave between these pillars and not let the darkness catch up to us, and once the controls decide to start working, it played fine. Thing is, these three games are made with the Game Maker engine, which has quite a few limitations, the main one being that it lacks a physics engine from what I've experienced. It can do animations and tile-based movement really well, but platforming and anything where you want smooth momentum, it's really not the engine of choice. Fortunately, this entry in the series seems to have picked up on that, and so what it asks of you gameplay-wise is a lot more manageable. Flying the tornado here, it's not anything impressive, but it does the job. It is game, I is play, no frustration. At the end of this trench run, Tails bumps into Zalgo, and we head to Sonic, who is just coming to in this strange world. He quickly bumps into Eggman, and they team up to find Tails, Sonic muttering his classic catchphrase, "Ha! Keep fast actions to me, Eggman." Zalgo starts to taunt us and we're back in the shoes of Tails. Heading right, he hears Zalgo and Sonic shouting and rushes just in time to save Sonic, kicking Zalgo, who is inhabiting Tails' form, into the spikes. But Sonic is acting kinda strange, and Tails remarks how he's talking kinda strange. "Wait, that's not Sonic. Your soul is mine." I'll probably add the actual music. Yeah, I think this is the best of the trilogy, not by leaps and bounds, but I actually understood what was happening without having to hit up the wiki. Again, really short, but I think some variation of gameplay, environments, characters, and story made it feel like a lot more complete package. B. I'm feeling generous. I could swear there's something we should have done by now, something I'm forgetting, something important. Oh, right. Sonic PC port was made in 2020 for the Luigi Kid Challenge. It basically revolutionized Sonic.exe. It is probably the third most important part of Sonic.exe after the original story and game. We are not playing that game today, because just a few months after the original version, work began on a remake. New updated sprites, gameplay, and story. The project is run by Joe Doughboy, co-creator of the original, in league with John Kuhn. And it's pretty good. You open the game, you are met with Tails in a heap between two giant mitts, game instructions and credits rolling across the screen until Sonic shows his face from the dark. You are then dropped into Hill Zone, get hit with a couple welcome back signs, see a big pile of bodies, Burning Angel Island Zone, get caught by Sonic. You know this part by now, but do not for a second think that this game doesn't stand out or that it isn't anything special. First off, the controls and the feel is all there. A-class, animations and sound feel just right and click together immaculately. Those sprites, that art, fabulous. The best we've seen? No, I think EYX and One More Time hit higher highs in that regard, but that's a hell of a high bar. The scares are some of the best too, and the most impressive thing is there are no jump scares. This game managed to do something even more impressive. It instills you with dread. Let's imagine you are 11 years old, you love Sonic, and you heard about this really scary haunted Sonic game. Do you remember the aura when you were that age and things that were spoken about like that? Saw or Paranormal Activity come to mind for my age demographic, where you're so naive that you think you might actually die if you see it. Right, you open up this game and play through what we've spoken about and seen so far, and then Tails gets grabbed and the game closes, and when you dare to open it again, it's this accursed, broken experience. Sonic morphs into this, and then a TXT file pops up in your downloads. It's Tails asking for help, and when you look back to Sonic, he's telling you to stop reading that file to focus on the game, and then another TXT and another, and as soon as you open them, they close, and Sonic begins to morph angrier and angrier at you until suddenly pages and pages of TXTs open. I am God, they proclaim. They fill your dashboard. Imagine that fucking terror, dude. I didn't grow up with this experience of Sonic.exe, but I imagine a lot of people here did. If you experienced this game when you were a kid, what was that like? Because everything I just said about those TXT files, that all happens, by the way. I was not exaggerating. Also, at one point when you get across the fire with Tails, this tree eats his tails, and that's why he doesn't have any tails. The original version of the game before remakes and updates, he didn't have his tails either, and that is because Lord.exe can't make anything 100% accurate to real Sonic games. Maybe he just respects intellectual property, I don't know. There's going to be some of you watching this right now who don't understand why I emphasize that so much, and some of you who feel like a weight has been lifted from your shoulders. And now you have to like and subscribe. Some other good facts: this version of Sonic.exe is known as Lord.exe and is voiced by Shay Grell, who voiced the original Sonic.exe. He is agendered, toeless, 3'3", and 77 pounds, so I could kick his ass. I realize it sounds slightly like I'm talking about Shay Grell there rather than Sonic.exe. I meant Lord.exe, who's 3'3" and 77 pounds. This game is fabulous. It inspired a lot of the games we've seen and will see, and yet it surpassed many of them. Out of sheer respect, it's getting the S until something kicks it out. Sonic 13, the most original Sonic.exe game, is... I mean, it's an edgy troll parody game in the vein of Chronic.Kush, but I mean, it's not as unbearable. It's made by Vladosta, and it's surprisingly functional for what I played of it. Kind of enjoyed trying to get this bounce right with Tails, which was the majority of the game, to be honest. So you play as Tails, and I got myself killed on these spikes, and then as Knuckles, and then got killed by Sonic.exe, and then just hit with ear-shredding noise, which is, I mean... overly compressed, unbearably loud noise is just hilarious, isn't it? Dude, my favorite Bill Burr bit is when he went on stage and said, you know, it's supposed to suck, but it's not quite bad enough to really piss me off. Funnily, I did say to myself the only way I could see something dethroning Chronic.Kush is if a game drops a slur, and this game does do that in the opening text, but like... it's clearly just an edgy teenager who has normalized the word rather than someone purposefully provoking a reaction by being hateful, so it seems a bit pathetic to get all twisted up over that. It's the R word, by the way. I tell you now, one of these games dropped the N word on me, it's getting effed and there will be no return. Anyway, it's a D, and it's the lowest of the Ds. Maybe just because you made something doesn't mean it has to go beyond you and your friends if you aren't providing a good experience or wanting feedback, huh? Sonic the Hedgehog is Dead by Whitefire is a game where you play as Sonic just before he runs into a wall of spikes seemingly placed by a malicious entity, an EXE and barge-in Sonic. It's a really odd one because some of it looks embarrassingly bad, like the world being made of solid color blocks, no textures, nothing, but at the same time this is Sonic's animation for hitting a spring. How are both of these in the same game? I'm literally forced to assume that some of these animations came pre-packaged with whatever Whitefire used to make this game, and these blank slates are their own handiwork. Anyway, once Sonic is dead, you run around some strange afterlife for a minute and then run into, well, yeah, Sonic.exe and Margin. That's pretty much all I have to say. Margin is another evil Sonic variant inspired by an old Easter egg, by the way. Yeah. Some honestly quite funny animations at points, like on the opening screen where Sonic's face is trying to rip itself free of his skin. That's pretty funny. Other than how well animated Sonic himself is, I see nothing special in here. Is this like a play test for integrating some new Sonic animations or something? Couldn't tell ya, the game jolt page is fairly nonsensical. I can tell you it was made for the second Luigi Kid Challenge, and there's a secret ending you can get if you so desire. D, I guess. That D section is starting to fill up a little bit, huh? Sonic vs. Simulator, created by That Blue Boy, is a game where you play as Sonic.exe hunting down your victims. The menu looks nice, we've got options in here, which is genuinely good to see. The tutorial breaks down your abilities, you have to press shift to run, X makes you attack, and by destroying a monitor, you can add a shadow to your arsenal that can be dropped as a hazard for your victims, slowing them down, making them trip, or hallucinate. Controls and animations are working smoothly, easy to jump. I'm here for this. We get into Hill Zone, and it's time to hunt Tails. So we had long, grab some rings, and oh. Game seems to have broken. Didn't load the next zone. Weird, but it's fine. We'll restart. Restarting means sitting through the tutorial, which has a really odd choice of music. This doesn't make me feel like a demonic presence preparing for the hunt. Makes me feel like a stately lady preparing for afternoon tea. We get back into the game and it would appear that this area just won't load. Okay, so I re-download the game and sit through the unskippable tutorial that moves at a snail's pace, and finally we're back in and ready to... okay, cool. So... I've looked around on the Game Jolt page, and the creator has some screenshots suggesting there are other parts of the game, but I don't think they ever got released. I think this is as far as Sonic.exe VS Simulator goes. Apparently the creator got tired trying to add multiplayer and decided to take a month off, and that was 3 years ago, so I think Dad's out for milk. Where do I even put this? It can be barely called a proof of concept. I'll put it at the bottom of C category, I guess, because what's there is fine, and D is getting too full. Sonic.exe There Is No Hope is way better than I expected. First off, it's made by Freezeye. Looking at the Game Jolt page, it's clear they are a student and making this game in their free time, and they did at least some of the art themselves as well as all the coding. And hats off, because this game gives me a breakdown of the controls before we begin. And for the first time, I can both spin dash and peel out. This is impressive stuff. It was made in 2024 for the Luigi Kid Challenge, but with a lot of the newer games, you will see they're made with something called Sonic Worlds, which is an engine specifically designed for fan-made Sonic games, which is why a lot of the recent games look and feel more consistent. That said, this does, and there's a whole Sonic level in here, by the way. We start as Sonic and play through the entire fan-made Sonic level with all his abilities, and gosh darn, if it doesn't feel pretty good. We've got obstacles, enemies, the whole 9 yards. Beat this stage and move on to the next with Sonic, and static comes in before we bump into a shadowy entity proclaiming itself as God, and then we get a choice, give over our soul or run. I think this is part of Freezeye's pitch for the game, a Sonic.exe RPG, but well, this game's cancelled, so this is all we get to see of it, unfortunately. And it doesn't make much of an impact. Try to run and you immediately get got and Sonic possessed. That leads us into the opening of Hill Zone with Tails and corpses and tapping Sonic on the shoulder. Do you want to play with... Oh, Jesus! Wow, okay, this one's legit. I've not heard of it before, but there's some real craft here. I see you, Freezeye. Burning Angel Island Zone, Sonic.exe comes at you. Look at this goofy little face. This bit-crushed version of the chase music sounds pretty neat, though. Then we're in with Knuckles, and look as he punches his way out of the box and falls down to Earth, and the background has this awesome 3D effect. We can glide and attach to surfaces. It's genuinely a shame we don't get to play some more of this, because not too far in, we get locked in a room with Sonic, and he taunts us from side to side, and then game over. Yeah, man, I'm so sad this isn't being worked on. I could really see this becoming something special. One of the definitive takes if it was just a little more complete. Add some actual death scenes for Tails and Knuckles, maybe a little dialogue before Knuckles' death. You'd be really starting to get somewhere. I'm just going to slide this on at a B, but it wouldn't have needed much more to get to an A. Good stuff. Sonic the End of the World Remake. Take everything I just said about the last one and do all the things I said to improve it. Boom. End of the World Remake. It's made by Rob the Hedgehog using the not-so-simple Sonic Worlds engine, which means it has access to all of the things the last game did. The experience is far more polished, even if it only has to the end of the Tails section. That does include a Sonic level, though, showing the events in which Sonic beat a little level and then got possessed. It's really similar to the last one, actually, to the point where I had to wonder what the story is, because they've clearly taken their inspiration from the same place, or There Is No Hope is based on the end of the world. I'm not entirely sure. We've got a little cutscene in here too, and yes, we get the animation for Tails' death. I actually enjoyed this enough that I was very much compelled to add and immediately play the original game, curious to see how the story and experience would develop. End of the World Remake gets an A from me for what it's done so far. Let's see how the original, far more complete version stands. Well, First off, it's made by the same person in the same engine with the same sprites, so I actually don't know why they decided to restart the project. Could they not have just updated the old one with the new bits? It's not like it looks different anyway. I'm very confused on that front. It's also not a complete project. It's still declared a demo, so it's not like people are going to be mad you started altering a supposedly complete experience. I just don't understand. With that said, I hope they make some changes to the new version. There is something so unhingedly frustrating about playing this game. The level design is just not the one. Where they put the traps and how quickly you die, I honestly can't explain how horrible a lot of this feels. While it rears its head a little with the Tails section, it doesn't really click in until you get to the Knuckles bit. I hate the way I have to pause for a second once I land a glide. It kills the satisfaction of movement. I hate how many points the game seems to want me to climb walls with both Knuckles and later with Metal Sonic, which we'll get to. I honestly found myself really glad that after my 3 lives were up, the game would just let me move on, because if it made me restart the level, I don't think I could have stuck with it. Frustration abounds. Here with Tails, I fly over this fire pit. Cool, so I should be using my flight here. So I try to fly over the next one, and nope, a dark shadow grabs me and I go back to the last checkpoint. I try not to fly too high and still no, so I just fell to the ground and no, he still got me. Is this intended? Was I doing something wrong? I really don't know. Knuckles, we got to this section where touching a shadow means EXE will start chasing you, but then you have to jankily climb this stupid wall and it's not possible to get up. In fact, most of the time I end up falling and hitting that stupid shadow. By the time I died, I was genuinely saying, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. And then Robotnik, Jesus Christ, Robotnik. To do a jetpack jump, you have to press down and Z. To do whatever the fuck this spinny ball thing is, you have to press down and Z. 2 different actions mapped to literally the same controls. That's because jump requires you to press down and then Z. Oh, but you better make sure you come to a complete stop first, because if you press down and sideways and then Z, you still do the stupid spinny ball move. And then the game wants you to use the jetpack jump to get across gaps, so you have to press down, press jump, then press sideways in one smooth rotation, and it just feels horrible. I know what I want to do. These controls will not let me do it. Is there some sort of pact that insists that you use as few buttons as possible? Just map something to fucking X. Then, once I manage to get past Robotnik's section, he calls in Metal Sonic, and Metal Sonic has a bunch of different controls and abilities, and none of them are told to you. So you have to figure them all out, bitch! His level is so long and has no checkpoints, and if you hit something just wrong, getting immediately slammed with give up, yeah, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore, this sucks and I hate it! That's the end of the demo, by the way. Maybe there's some other cool stuff tucked in there, but I'm not putting myself through that again to find out. The presentation and ingenuity is too much to give it a D, but it's certainly not getting above a C. Please fix this in the rest of the remake. When you download Knuckles, the fight against Sonic.exe, you will first find out that it was made with RPG Maker 15. On the next screen, you will find out that it is in fact called Knuckles Sonic.exe Nightmare. You may at this point realize that you have made a mistake, and you may close the game and promptly remove it from your downloads. You may then thank God that you are not me, for I can do no such thing. Instead, I hit new game and find myself in a top-down RPG as Shadow the Hedgehog. After a prompt 15 steps north, a text box tells me that I am dead. And if only I was, dear friend. If only. I then become a new character, one I do not recognize. I am on a small island amongst a sea of lava. Ahead of me is Sonic. I approach and am once again informed that I die. I then suddenly find myself on a new island. Sonic moves towards me and gets stuck on the terrain. I leave this screen and the music cuts. I begin to aimlessly walk through the unidentified corridors of all different kinds. The wooden floorboards of a magnificent mansion, the craggy rocks of a volcanic field, the sands of tropical beaches. After around 1 minute, I meet Sonic and he once again informs me of my death. I then reappear as 4 separate men. We speak to Sonic once again, now identified as Sonic.FUROR, and begin turn-based battle. I attack him twice. He dies. I now find myself as but a single person in a large camp. After walking into the training ground and being asked to leave, I take a nap. I leave north, only to find that it is sealed because I have not yet dealt with the Sonic.RIBS. I then transform into Knuckles the Echidna and choose to explore. I find a luck ticket and a giant coloured crystal. It teleports me to a dark cave. I am then attacked by a common spectre. I battle them off, find the exit, come up against a pack of spectres, but while they are many, they are also easily defeated. Then, I meet January. January deals 280 damage to me. I die. I am sent back to the start of the game. I replay, get past the maze, kill Sonic.FURIOR, nap, turn into Knuckles and make my way back. This time, I find equipment and gear up, using tickets to restore my health. I make it outside. I make it to this man guarding this wall who asks me for my ID. I present him my ID. I do not have an ID. The game is over. I start a new run, make my way back, get killed by January, start a new game, realize I can sprint, run all the way back, don't talk to the man by the wall, meet this man in a tower, he gives me an ID, I use the ID to get past the wall, I get presented with this big red button, I do not press it. As it has become clear, this game has no propensity for keeping me alive. I find Sonic. I am told not to talk to Sonic. I oblige. I tell this man there is an evil hedgehog. The controls stop working. I can no longer move. I cannot enter the menu. The game is soft-locked. I press and hold the Alt key. I press the F4 key. I end my recording. I go downstairs and watch WWE. I consider my life choices. I place this game in the D tier. At least it did not use any slurs. Sonic PC Legacy is a remaster of the original Sonic PC port, and while the remake we played earlier has some pretty drastic departures, Legacy sticks extremely close to that original script. I mean, so close that it keeps the typos. The very first section of the game stays very close to Miss Crimson's Sonic.exe up until Tails gets chased. When he trips, Sonic.exe descends upon him and the game closes. Once we reopen, we are met with a character select, and the only playable character is still Tails. Hitting play, Tails seems to suffer and then drop from the box. The level we begin in is untitled, and the landscape is hellish, built from flesh, mouths threaten to swallow us, bodies litter the surface. The controls in this one are a little odd. First off, the momentum. You build it slowly, taking a few seconds to work up to top speed, but even more notably, it takes a lot to lose it. When you stop holding the arrow key, Tails will continue for several steps as he slows down. This essentially makes the entire game play like an ice level. Tails, or as we can now see he is called, Alan, drives like a car. It actually feels surprisingly pleasant, as long as they don't have any tight jumping sections where we have to rush. I don't see this becoming a problem. Getting past this first area is relatively easy, and once we do, we'll bump into Cream, who tells us that if we are here, then we are already damned. Past her, we get stuck in place and spear tackled by whatever this little guy is, which causes a pop-up to display and the game to close. Note that at this point the game bugged, and when I reopened it, I replayed the exact same section again, but the next time it closed, the game did advance when I reopened. When we come back, Alan will tell us he doesn't need us to control him and proceed to complete this level automatically. What's happening here is that Alan is not Tails. Alan is a human soul trapped in the game, trapped in Tails' form. He can make his own choices. He is alive, and we are pushing him forward. We are carrying him to his demise. Welcome to this colorless world. Does it look slightly more pleasant than the flesh world? Well, bad luck. Welcome to hell. Welcome to a long, checkpoint-free section of tight jumps and small platforms. You will die a lot, and it will become clear that not only is your own momentum your greatest enemy, but that sometimes when it feels like you should be able to jump, Alan will instead cast himself headlong into the void. I think that when you land, there's sometimes a handful of frames in which it looks like jumping should be possible, but it ain't. But I'm afraid this is not the worst. Make it past this jumping puzzle and you enter this world, and Sonic.exe will begin to chase you. If you do not start moving the moment you spawn, you will die. If you slow down too much, you will die. You must rush your way across this extensive section of jumps. Alan's momentum is so intense that at full speed, even once you let go of the arrow key, he will carry on past the end of the screen. There's just not enough lead room for how fast you move, and you will end up making half the jumps in this section completely blind because you do not have time. Sometimes you must jump blindly as far as you can, and sometimes doing that will kill you. You have essentially 4 lives, and if you lose them all, you must go all the way back to before Alan completes the section without your help. I was was stuck here for 25 minutes. I'm sorry to say that I gave up. It was not as unbearable as Sonic the End of the World, and there was an interesting challenge to be found in controlling your momentum, making sure to go fast enough to not let Sonic catch you while not going so fast that you miss the jumps, but I just didn't want to wrestle with the controls anymore. I just checked and realized I basically made it to the end. Fine. Okay, I played it again and beat it. So once we're past that, we get to an altar where Sonic.exe asks why we keep pushing Tails forward, keep pushing more souls into torturous death. Ignoring him, I move forward, and these jumping puzzles present. These blocks break beneath us, but it's not too bad, and beyond that, some jumps where these statues come to life. I did die here, but fortunately the last checkpoint is... Oh, go absolutely fuck yourself. No, I'm out. Here's the Luigi kid doing it. Basically, after this, Sonic.exe draws Tails into the sky and tears his heart out. The gameplay is not bad, but it really needs a checkpoint somewhere, at least just after the chase. That said, the gameplay was so much worse and so much more frustrating in the OG PC port, which I did play in the History of Sonic.exe video. Sonic does also explain that he is formed of dark matter in the far reaches of space in this canon, not an interdimensional entity. Also, yes, shout out to the art, it's all great stuff, but a lot of it is similar or the same as the original PC port, with the main upgrade being the gameplay. All in all, I'm giving it a high B. It would probably be an A with just one checkpoint, but the fact that the entire gameplay section must be completed in 4 lives is just not player friendly. Sonic 1 Prototype is made by Mosaic Art. It plays a lot like the last game actually, with Sonic building a lot of momentum and losing it slowly, which I'm starting to realize is just how the original Sonic the Hedgehog games play. Those games do not contain meticulous jumping levels, and while they are similarly sparse on checkpoints, usually taking you back to the game start when you run out of lives, they were also designed in an era that intended you to pour hours into perfecting them for a high score. For the same reason that Elden Ring now lets you respawn outside boss doors instead of running 6 miles to the closest bonfire, I don't recommend this approach for the modern era. Fortunately, I found Sonic 1 Prototype a lot more reasonable on this front. The game short page comes with a bit of setup. We are a Sega game tester, meant to play the game and report back any bugs or unusual events. This game is a prototype for the original Sonic game, and therefore, the year is likely 1990 to 1991. When the game loads in, it immediately breaks and gives an error report before we can restart and jump into Green Hill Zone. It's all playable. In fact, this is an almost entirely gameplay-based experience, which is really neat. We've got 3 stages of Green Hill Zone, but you will notice some strange things. First off, the music keeps popping in and out, and secondly, there are occasional random obstacles, like these circles that don't appear intentional. The main thing you're aiming to do in these stages, though you don't know it, is hold on to as many lives as possible. Unsurprisingly, I am not very good at Sonic games. On the positive side, while the game is difficult, especially for a little bitch like me, the stages feel much more designed around Sonic's movement, and once I get the hang of it, I make it to the end of stage 3 with 2 lives intact. This is where we're struck by bold red lettering asking if we're having fun before declaring the real game is about to begin. Suddenly we find ourselves in Green Hill at night, or as the game calls it, Hill. The game is short and simple until we reach a cliff edge and are rushed from behind by this shadowy Tails entity. We're told that because we've still got some lives left, we're still going to have some fun, as it would be a shame to waste them, and thus we find ourselves in a wholly original stage. This run-down factory area. Now, here there is the employment of slippery jumping puzzles on tiny platforms, and it isn't fantastic, but failing just means starting from the bottom, and in fact these levels are very difficult, if not downright impossible, to die on. This one ends with this entity picking us up and throwing us into a giant saw blade, and thus, all my lives are finished. However, the entity now appears to speak to us, taunting us, threatening to dox us, and then leaving when something intervenes. As he leaves, telling us to go report our findings, we get shown a code. Up, down, left, right, A, M. Well, being the savvy little stinker that I am, I rebooted the game and plugged it into the home screen, and what do you know? Our little friend pops up and says, very well, here's the level select, which for me, as both someone trying to review the game and as an imbecile, is extremely helpful. I hit up the last level, and after 4.5 minutes of shenanigans get dropped into a near-bottomless pool of water. I still have lives left though, and so this entity allows me into one final secret level. By interacting with these other shadow enemies, we can find out that our tormentor is known as All-Mind, that there is some other being here to keep him at bay, and thank God, because All-Mind is pure evil and omniscient in the digital world. Who knows what kind of horrors he could release on cyberspace. All in all, an engaging experience that gave me some unexpected stuff, nice presentation, and a varied story. The art is a little par for the course, and the horror elements are quite light. All in all, I'll tap it in at the bottom of beta. Sonic.OWO 2 April Fool's build is made by Vladik, and I chose to play it because I just played a bunch of games in a row that took me ages to explain and I wanted a gimme. The game looks like this. You think momentum was crazy before? Oh boy, you ain't seen nothing. This Sonic is 0 to 100 in one button press. It's got a cutscene drawn in MS Paint, if you can call this a cutscene, and then we're into the level proper. Make our way through this course, grab Jumbo Josh, and then get given a countdown timer, and it took a second to figure out what was going on, but the intent then is for you to make your way back to the start from this point 4 times, each one being a lap, and once completed, before the time limit runs out, you can escape. If you run out of time, Jumbo Josh gets ya. I give it a casual go and fail, but no. This time I'm not giving up. It's time to lock in. I still die, screw it, it's D tier, let's move on. Siunk.exe One Fast Food is made by Yuta143 and is a parody of One More Time. Well, in a sense, maybe we'll get to that. Before we continue, I would like to introduce you to the brand new E tier. Yes, I'm very proud of it. Moving into it will be Sonic.VHS, Sonic 13, and Knuckles the fight against Sonic.exe. Congratulations, guys. Siunk.exe One Fast Food is an awful parody game in the realm of Chronic.Kush, our present F-rank worst game contender, and of course, once again, every texture is a meme, every sound effect is a clip or an overcompressed ear bleeder. Sonic begins by explaining that we've done this so many times, and now it's time for one fast food. From this point, it's basically Sonic.exe followed by Sally.exe in terms of characters, straight line with no obstacles in terms of levels, and not a single laugh to be found. That said, it did end by opening a YouTube tab for the Rickroll, and I respect the effort taken to code that in. Maybe it's just my expectations beginning to acclimate, but this didn't irritate me anywhere near as much as Chronic.Kush, and the levels were too easy and quick to have gameplay, let alone frustration. It's not even getting an E, it's getting a D. Did somebody say sequel? Sonic.exe One More Round is the follow-up to Mr. Pixel's One More Time, and if you're anything like me, when you boot it up and start playing, you'll be a little confused, because this is the same game as its predecessor. I mean, literally. There's some updates to the art, but off the top of my head, everything looks the same dialogue, Tails, Knuckles, Eggman, game over. Well, obviously this is not the same game, or we wouldn't be talking about it, and that becomes clear the moment you reopen the game from here, and are presented with a cartoon scene you might remember from, nearly an hour ago now. Indeed, we are now entering Mr. Pixel's Sally.exe. Possibly my favorite part of all this is the animations for when you hit play on the title screen, because each character gets their own chance in the Sonic logo, and we have a chance to see OMT descend upon them. But what's new in gameplay? Well, for Amy, we look like this instead of the more modern Amy you might know, and look at Not Perfect with this fresh coat of paint. Ain't that something? But of course the good times do not last, and we bump into Sonic and his giant ring. It is time for the secret level. Unlike the original game, this can actually be beaten by avoiding the goal and heading for the ring at the end, and in fact, every character besides Sally has a secret level. I messed up and died though. Then we've got Cream the Rabbit, follow these arrows, pick up speed, get splattered, and okay, keep me on my toes, why don't you? Instead of hitting the spikes at Mach 5, Cream pulls out in time. But OMT has other plans. If you are so inclined, you can actually turn straight around at the start of this level and bounce this rabbit out of there. You'll end up in the woods, and wandering for a while leads you to what the wiki informs me is our grandmother's cabin, in which she has had her head soundly removed. That's rough, but this is rougher. And finally Sally, and as Sonic looms over you in a sky of red, the walls close in until they fit you no longer. After this, Sonic attacks you and takes your soul, like in the original. I did also go back and try to get some more secret levels, but the wiki is very unclear. The only one I managed was Knuckles by turning back once Sonic spooked me. With Tails, you're supposed to outrun OMT, though how to do that is not stated. Eggman can apparently turn back at some point and escape in his Digatron or whatever, but I turned back at every chance I got and it never happened. All the same, the additions here are very good. While Sally.exe is not a great game and its origins are plagued in issues, it's still nice to see a turd polished. I'll give this an A, but I don't think its creativity outweighs its prequel or EYX. We've now done the first game and the second in this trilogy. We all know what comes next, and it's a true contender for that top spot. But I'm gonna make you wait, bitch. Mighty.exe, made by Failgame, really is a perfect spiritual sequel to Sally.exe in every way. It captures the exact same style and feel and length of the experience, the scale of the scares, the quality of the art and animations. If you told me Miss Crimson made this immediately after finishing Sally.exe, I wouldn't even question it. Of course, I didn't have exceptionally positive things to say about Sally.exe, I know, but I'll admit that it is impressive Failgame captured the vibe and style so well. This time around, we've got 4 more characters from the extended Sonic canon: Mighty the Armadillo, Ray the Flying Squirrel, Espio the Chameleon, and Vector, the possessor of both magnitude and direction. Espio's level is grey and black with metal piping everywhere, perhaps a plumbing warehouse. You descend through the level without obstruction until you fall into spikes, which feels like quite an uninventive start. Then we've got Vector in Only One Way. We find a button and hit it, which sends the background into red static before we descend through a silhouetted world. We find another button, and pressing it causes a wall of spikes to rush up on us. To which Mighty.exe remarks, "Heh, that's so funny." Finally, Ray looks like he's going to get squished, but then he just gets grabbed instead. And not to sound like an ass, but I imagine probably because doing the sprite work of him getting crushed was outside the developer's skill set, which is fair enough, but you know, like, I can't give a game points for what it doesn't have. We do then have one final outing in which we play Mighty set against that static red background, forced to walk past the bodies of those he's felled, his old friends, presumably, I don't know the lore, and then one final glimpse of a recognizable hedgehog silhouetted before a staked armadillo. This far in, it's hard to remember a time when Sally.exe was the bottom tier of game. Compared to a lot of what we've played, this is a genuine attempt at a horror experience. No, it doesn't particularly stick the landing, and it's clear that the game is held back by what its creator wasn't capable of, but short, sweet, and genuine is starting to feel like it should get placed in the upper half of the board alone. That said, this is probably worse than Sally.exe, and so it goes into D tier. Head and shoulders above those E's though, man. Sonic's Painful Death is designed by PW Man, according to GameJolt, Yolkin, according to the credits, and Jordan Gaming 101 voices Sonic the Hedgehog. He still has an active YouTube channel that uploads YouTube poop compilations, usually about Sonic or Thomas the Tank Engine. He's just about to hit 10k subs, good for him. This is the first game to have voice acting, because Jordan lends his voice to our titular hedgehog. Actually, that's not true, there are little voice lines. This is the first one to have like actual full voice lines. Well, that's not even true either. This is the first game? There are ones that do. I think, is this the first one to have full? No, it's not. What a nice box. I would like to spin dash into it. God, Sonic is just full of zingers. So, we're in Green Hill, but this level should be called Kind and Fair, because it definitely reminds me of something I've seen before. So, you crash Sonic into these spikes, his painful death, then we see Sonic.exe walking past the staked bodies of all his friends, and then Sonic himself, and that's the game. It was made with GameMaker 8.1, Photoshop CS6, Audacity, Paint, and Paint.net. Why are you using Paint.net if you've already got access to Photoshop? I mean D, right? Not E because of the voice acting. That one was easy. Project Sonic World Executable, made by MC GameJolter, is once again made with the Sonic World Development Kit. That means that it controls pretty well and contains most of Sonic's classic arsenal of abilities. The game opens with a text explaining that we are playing a version of Sonic the Hedgehog that was augmented with AI. The AI freaked out and broke the game, rendering it unstable. We open to a pretty good Sonic level. It's actually a really good beginner level. It's quite short and contains jumps, rings, power-ups, enemies, but loads of little shortcuts. The main thing that'll trip you out is these broken static enemies that are vividly unfair, chasing you down and bristling with fire. Of course, this is intentional though, they're glitches. Once I got the hang of this level, I beat it in 23 seconds, and I felt like a bad little bitch. I guess this is what it's supposed to feel like to be good at Sonic games, huh? The next level immediately breaks and the background goes black, all the platforms turning to static as well as the enemies, and the really solid game design takes a break to allow for the entrance of my nemesis, tight jumping puzzles. Okay, let's actually talk about this for a second. Sonic Worlds is, as far as I'm aware, a pretty accurate rendition of the original Sonic engine. This means that Sonic controls and moves pretty much like in those games. Now, I could be wrong, but I'd wager that there's not many jumping puzzles in those games. Sonic controls like a car. He takes time to speed up and to slow down. The whole system is designed around making you want to go as fast as possible, but putting obstacles in your way to prevent it. The first time you play the level, it will be difficult and you will crash into obstacles, but once you're used to the level and know how to navigate it, you will feel like a god moving at top speed. The moment Sonic.exe gets involved, people take up the philosophy of broken game equals jumping puzzle, but that goes against the core design principle. I do understand why you would do this when making a Sonic.exe game, because Sonic.exe has broken the game. He's playing with you, he wants you to get frustrated, he doesn't want you to have fun. But you have to remember is that I'm some randomer who's just downloaded your game. I don't know who you are, I don't have any investment in you or your game. The moment I get frustrated, I have no reason to push forward. I haven't achieved anything yet. I haven't put enough time into your game to care about taking it to the end. If you want the majority of people to experience your full game, don't make it frustrating. It will not benefit you, I promise. You ever notice how the most popular Sonic.exe games are the ones with the least gameplay? That's because 9 out of 10 times when there is gameplay, it's not made to complement Sonic's controls, and most people don't bother to beat it. While we're discussing the controls, I did some more testing in the engine and figured out that I'm indeed correct about there being a lag to the jumping. When you're in the air and hit jump again, you do a little slash attack, and when you're on the ground, you of course jump. You can see here that if I press Z to jump just as I hit the ground, I do neither. I'm no longer in the air, but the game is not ready for me to jump yet. So one more reason why tight jumping puzzles are not fun. You have to take your time because if you rush the jump, literally will not work sometimes. Okay. Back to the game. We're now met with an extended gauntlet of type jumps. It's not fun gameplay, and for its length, the lack of checkpoints is frustrating, but A, you have unlimited lives and just go back to the start of the puzzle, and B, none of the jumps are exceptionally difficult. The space between is enough to slow down comfortably. There are a few points specifically designed to catch you out on the first time, low ceilings, long jumps with enemies just past where you can see, but once you know its tricks, it's not too hard. Little fun glitch here though. You do have infinite lives on this section, or at least you're supposed to. If you hit an enemy, you don't lose one, but if you miss a jump, which is a lot less likely, and fall to your death, you still lose a life. Because you're not supposed to be able to perma-die here, if you do, the game will soft lock. Actually, no, it'll restart from the beginning of the game, but you won't be able to see anymore, just hear yourself getting rushed down by static. Anyway, I got past this jumping puzzle, got attacked by fire fog, met a level where the only option was to throw myself into the abyss, I think. After I ran out of lives, it game overed and restarted me, but I genuinely don't know if that's the end of the game or not. I don't know what else I could do. Yeah, and I beat this game. I actually didn't mind this one that much. I'll give it a low B tier. It might be better if there was a clear ending and I knew how to get it. Sonic I Hate You is made by Iago Franco and is, I believe, a parody of I Hate You, an old creepypasta about a copy of Super Mario in which Luigi, Mario's green overalled brother, attempts to kill him, jealous of Mario always hogging the spotlight. This is not the first time, or the most famous time, that the story has been repackaged for Sonic. The wiki claims that the original version was made by Ashra.JPEG, and he canonically killed Jacksepticeye, but I didn't see any footage of it or find a download of the game. This version of the tale varies in gameplay, but keeps the core concept. Tails hates you and wants you dead for failing to protect him and being a crappy friend. This game is really impressive for one core reason. Instead of being made with the Sonic Worlds engine, this game is made entirely with Unity, a game engine capable of full 3D experiences. I promise you've played something made with it before. Hollow Knight, Pokemon Go, Beat Saber, loads of stuff. Without all the easy prepackaged options of Sonic World, Iago Franco has cut himself out a real challenge with this game, having to make everything from scratch. It has come with great upsides and some unfortunate downsides. We open on Sonic inside his iconic logo, and immediately you can see the upsides. Look at this color and art direction. Pops like nothing else. Quality through the roof. And the look of Green Hill Zone doesn't disappoint either. It's so crispy, I want to reach out and touch it. Smoosh my face against it. What do you reckon those trees taste like? Do you reckon if you cook Tails, he'd taste more like pork or beef? I bet he's delicious. Just look at his lean little fox body. Bet he slips right off the bone. The drawback to all this comes in when you start moving and the game feels like you're walking through molasses. Everything is so sluggish. Sonic jumps and hangs in the air like we're on the moon. Not only does the camera feel like it's struggling to keep up with everything, but when you grab a ring, the sound effect is so delayed, and the stereo sound, as it pans so far to the left, it feels like it's way behind you. Also, controlling Sonic feels nasty. His momentum is not tuned right, not just for Sonic game, but just for movement in general. After jaunting through this lusciously lit level with suddenly cast into monochrome hues, the cheery music replaced with a haunting ambience, something's wrong, and we crash back to the title screen with Tails in the logo, the words, "Come on, don't be afraid," hanging below him. Now, our friendly green hill is cast in red, and we get to see the value of a 3D engine in effect. What's the parallax on these words in the foreground? It's so cute. Eventually, Tails chases us down as that well-rehearsed music plays, no hope flashing across the screen when he lands his juicy, tender little fingers on us. After he talks for like a while about how much he hates us, he finishes with, "I'll see you in your dreams," and we get credits. On the one hand, these visuals are so distinct from everything else we've played, and the effort behind this is commendable. On the other hand, it's not that great to play, and the scares are very weak. You had the opportunity to use a full 3D Tails here. You could have had him climb over the background or just into the camera to stare at you. How freaky would that have looked? I guarantee the 3D model could have just been picked up and imported to Unity with little effort. I'll put this into B tier, but please God, someone take what Yago Franco has made here and create something awesome with what he started. Okay guys, I have some startling and upsetting news. It seems I have been played a fool. Sonic.Simple led me down a rabbit hole that would end up not only having huge ramifications on its final place in this tier list, but on the position of a previous entry. And it's not one of the shit ones. Sonic.Simple is made with simple Sonic Worlds engine by Blix the Gamer. There is one playable character, Sonic, and guys, what you're about to see might disturb you. If you've been paying attention, you will recognize where we are. But in case you haven't, let me jog your memory. Yes, this is the first level of Sonic Worlds Executable. Disgraceful. What kind of bold-faced asset flippery has happened here? Someone has tried to play a fast one on me. Someone thinks me a fool. Well, incensed by this disrespect, I began to investigate, and it did not take long to find my answer. Behold, the simple Sonic Worlds engine demonstration video from its own creator. And it all comes falling down. And to think, I complimented that first level for being a perfect entry-level Sonic. For shame, MC Game Jolter. For shame. You didn't think I'd notice that your Sonic Worlds.exe game simply reuses a corrupted level from the base Sonic Worlds engine? Did you oh, wait a second. Sonic Worlds Executable Project. Simple Sonic Worlds engine. Sonic.Simple. Maybe I should have seen this coming. Alright, to get serious, the Sonic Worlds engine literally comes with this level on board. Both of these games are Sonic.exe games meant to be corrupted versions of that engine and its included content. Let that be a lesson to me about properly reading Game Jolt pages. Still, the most commendable part of the Project Sonic Worlds executable is not original, and so the game can no longer draw credit from it. For that reason, it must fall from its comfortable B tier position to the lowly depths of C tier. We make our way through the default level and stumble into this silhouetted character that appears to be Mario? Well, no, it's not Mario, it's Blixer the Gamer, the self-insert villain to his own game. We get a pop-up about a Sonic skin not being in the files and the game crashes. Except, psych! The game reopens and we're back in the red void. We run for a while and fall into a pit of spikes and see Blixer once more hanging over us. Its online profile is represented with a pink-skinned Mario, by the way. That's why his silhouette looks like Mario. I know it's confusing, but the internet's weird, man. We then get some more taunting pop-ups, or at least I assume they're taunting. To be completely honest, I don't think Blixer's English is that strong. The game then crashes once more. The game already fooled us this way once, though. Not gonna fall for it again. A riser begins, loud and ascending until... Oh. Okay. I guess that was it. This game goes firmly in the D tier, I'm afraid. It would be higher if it just had one good scare in it, but Jesus Christ! C tier. Oh my god. The game! What a knee slapper, like with a Y, like gay. Wow. SNOC.SMEXEY is made by Not So Devi, and I mean... Come on, it's called SNOC.SMEXEY. What do you expect me to come out here and tell you that it's a masterpiece? That it has made leaps in the medium of comedy? Yeah, you're right. Up till now, people haven't been leveraging the true hilarity of bit-crushed and ear-bleedingly loud audio to its full potential. So glad Not So Devi is here to show us what it really means to laugh. Get it? It's loud. It's not nice to listen to. That's the joke, guys. What, you not get it? Why aren't you laughing? You clearly just aren't quite getting it. Let me explain the joke. So, the music and the sound, it's blown out so much that it's unpleasant. It's not enjoyable for you. You're still not laughing. What's wrong with you? Calling Sonic.SMEXEY a parody is like saying Epic Movie is a parody. Like, yeah, it clearly has other things in it and references. Could someone please point me to the satire, the comedic observations about the genre or its games or its fan base? No, it's just meme sound bites. Wow. Someone call a doctor. My side has split. My guts are spilling out. At this point, I welcome the sweet escape of death. There's honestly nothing to say here. There's all the levels from the original game, except it looks and sounds like shit. How amusing. E tier, you'll be excited to know there's 2 sequels. Do you reckon they managed to find a joke at some point? Oh, Jesus Christ. Sully.SMEXEY has decided to leave some of the blown out audio behind in favor of making things take an incredibly long time, because once again, the joke is you. Isn't it funny that I'm wasting your time? Yes, Devi, truly comedy gold. You play Amy the Hedgehog, you go into a secret level that looks and sounds like this. The goals at the end? Oh, guess what they say. Go on, have a guess. It's not goal. It's something so funny. You'll never guess. Cream's section is played by a shoddily cut out PNG of a rabbit. The level is almost playable, but then you get a funny meme dialogue from Star Wars and then spend a total of 44 seconds watching the rabbit go fast. I heard in an interview with Polygon about the funniest games ever that Devi was going to make this part shorter, but the game testers hadn't finished laughing yet and they'd missed the funny jokes in the next section, wiping tears from their eyes. Then Sans Undertale's reference, and then this background that points out how there should be a copied asset from the original game here because that's what happens in a Sonic.exe game. Well, Devi, you nearly did a satire though, so close, but unfortunately this is an explanation of the premise for a joke and not an actual joke. You're so close though, you'll get there. I'm done. Here's a compilation of YouTuber M80 Mark losing his shit at the first game.
Gotta go fast, Sails! Go crash into Sonic! Kill him! Ah! No! Oh no, I got oofed! Oh, Devi's the best. He's gonna nanny me! No! I am already dead! Ah! Dr. Egg! I don't care about the rest, dude. I'm Dr. Egg now. Dude, if he rolls when he walks, it's over. It's over. Please tell me he rolls, please, please, please! Ah! Yeah!
E tier. Also, disclaimer, because I'm being really mean about this game and not so Devi, but it's a Sonic.exe parody game. It's not that deep. We've all done embarrassing shit. This is unbearable, but like, it's not that deep. We're just having fun here. ROUG.SMEXEY is the final part in this trilogy, and it got blocked by Google Chrome's virus protection, so I couldn't play it. I'm assuming it's not a virus, but I'll take my blessings where I can and not force Google to download it. It gets its own special tier. It's DQ tier. It's where I throw it behind my dresser and forget it ever existed. I did have you geared up and ready for something absolutely trash there, though, so I'll pay you off with what I expect from the name alone to be an F-spot contender. I guess that shows what I know. Sonic the Last Spurt is made by Sapta, and to be fair, I'd accept contention over whether this is a Sonic.exe game or not. First off, gameplay-wise this is a big departure. All of the controls and movement feels pretty much like Sonic, but the actual gameplay you're faced with, You know how Sonic the Hedgehog is a level-based game? You start at the left side of the map and have to make your way as fast as possible to the right while avoiding obstacles and doing the occasional boss fights, getting a score based on time and number of rings carried. Remember having rings that gave you a one-time shield against damage? All that's out. This is something more akin to I'm not even sure, an adventure game? An RPG? We're introduced first to Knuckles, chilling out, protecting the Chaos Emerald when an earthquake strikes and the emerald breaks. That's not supposed to happen. Sonic and Tails feel the earthquake too and go to visit Knuckles, and they all try to investigate but end up making things so much worse that Knuckles has a stroke. Side note here, but I love that this is presented so much like a Sonic game with all the characters staying in character, apart from consistently dropping F-bombs. 2 days pass and we catch Sonic and Tails on their way to Angel Island because rumor has it there's corpses out there. That's how they put it. They say there was a rumor that corpses were spotted on Angel Island. They get there and things don't seem too odd and they split up until Sonic passes out and wakes up in Marble Zone, except there's corpses everywhere now. This is the first actual level and it's not great really. First off, the spikes have a longer hitbox than it appears and it messed me up a few times, and second off, it is, as is far too often the case, a level in a Sonic game that is not built around going fast. It's a platformer, except it's not very good. That's what this game is. It's a story-driven platformer, an R-rated, story-driven platformer. You finally bump into this dude, a grinning, wide-eyed Sonic lookalike, and he removes the ground from below you and begins to hunt you down, flying through the sky towards you like an out-of-control Macy's Day Parade balloon. You get 5 lives total for each character, and this is actually a pretty unforgiving number, as you'll almost certainly encounter more beginner's traps than that on your first go. Once I run out, I'm captured and treated to this delightful scene of Sonic getting impaled. Next, we're Tails, and, well, it's not particularly important, but we start out by using Tails' computer to check on our hoppers and the street condition, and it's like playing a point-and-click adventure game. Who knows what has to be clicked to progress? Better start pressing every inch of the screen. It's the words. You've got to click on the words and then it runs the checks. Maybe a UI that suggested this? Perhaps a button? Oh well, I eventually figure it out and Tails goes to bed. He has a weird dream about some parasite and wakes up in a quarry or something. I don't know what's going on anymore, but the level design is super whack and I lose all my lives to traps like this. Tails gets squished in the green void. GG. There's certainly a lot going on here, isn't there? I'm ambitious, no doubt. And this is the first part of what could have become a series, but the developer has clearly left the project at this point. I like it though. I like the creativity. It needs some more polish, redoing of the level designs more than anything, but this genuinely felt like the start of a full-price DS game. Controls not bad, visuals pretty decent, sound design mixed. I like the ambience at some points, but it was also missing sounds, like Sonic's feet hitting the ground, that would have really helped me get enveloped in the world. Really cool, would have liked to see where the story went. Let's give this a B tier. I hope you can get some more of this kind of creativity to come. Sonic.HTML is developed by Lego Kid 1100, and while it is very simple, it is nonetheless quite impressive. This is the Knuckles stage of Sonic.exe built entirely in hypertext markup language, HTML. That means this is made with the same code base as web pages. Not like a Flash player embedded in a web page, I mean the code that dictates fonts and images. Unfortunately, I can't get Notepad to open the file to see what's under the hood of this thing, which is such a shame because I'd love to know how this is put together. It has been now 8 years since I stopped attending lectures for the computing degree. I made it halfway through, so I'm drawing on some old knowledge here, but let me attempt to give you a quick lesson. HTML web pages are primarily built with 3 different languages: HTML, cascading style sheet known as CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is the simplest. It's the language you use to display text, choose the fonts, the text color. CSS is slightly more complex and is used to dictate layouts, stuff like indents, text boxes, images. It's the main component of the look of a web page. Sometimes when the internet is dropping in and out, you'll open a web page and it will display only a white page with a bunch of words and links one after another. That's CSS failing to load. Think of something like loading a PDF in Microsoft Word. Suddenly all of the layout and colors are carnage. And finally JavaScript, which is the most complex. It's what you use for interactivity, clicking on buttons, carousels, all the more interesting things modern web pages are capable of. Despite it being the closest to a coding language, it's not built like C++ or any of the far more complex codes that form the base of game engines. In fact, those languages only make up part of the toolset included in your standard engine like Unity, Unreal, or Sonic Worlds. Basically what I'm saying is, this guy built this game without any of the tools the others had. The game itself obviously is not very good, but it's not a showcase of game design skill. It's a challenge. It was done for the sake of seeing if it could be done. So here we are with Knuckles the Echidna, and we cannot jump or glide or spin dash. We have three options: go left, go right, and punch. Punch goes out ahead and in whichever direction you're facing. From what I can guess, the way this has been built, when you press the button, JavaScript code calls for an animation resource housed somewhere online. Every step you take, every step you could take, or punch you could make at any position you could make it from, already exists somewhere, and it is an animation being played in response to your key presses. It's hard to notice, but your movement isn't free, it's tiled-based. On any screen, there are about 6 spots you could stand in and move between. Okay, I'm not here to give you a shoddy computer lesson based on poorly remembered uni lectures and guesswork. We're here to review and rank a game. It's impressive, it's a showcase, but it's not actually very good compared to the rest of these games. You have very limited options, a square box of screen, one character, and less than 4 minutes of gameplay. You run through a straight line course with the ability to punch, which gets you through the pillar obstacles. Once you get to the end of that straight line, you meet Sonic.exe and attempt to punch at him, but the punch positions are really odd in a way I can't quite explain. You also can't punch and move at the same time. That would require a whole new set of animations. You can move, or you can punch. You can punch and then move, or vice versa, but you must be rooted to take a swing. Eventually, undead-looking Sonic here drops some pillars on you, and that's that. If we don't give it any credit for being what it is, it's a D tier for gameplay, visuals, and scares. I'm going to put it in C, though, because this is interesting for far more reasons than being a mid-Sonic.exe game. Dan the Patient Bearer is the developer of Sonic.exe Spirits of Hell. This is one I know a few people have been eagerly awaiting. I knew this was going to be something interesting from the moment I hit download and saw the zipped file still came in at 498 megabytes. This compressed file is still bigger than any other download for this entire project. So straight off the bat, the game has optional difficulties. I think this is the first one to do that, and there are going to be an awful lot of firsts in this game. These difficulty options don't affect gameplay in any way, it's just the number of lives you received. The game is made in the Simple Sonic Worlds engine, and so we know what to expect from the Green Hill visuals, the sprites, the abilities. The first real surprise is when we get a fully voice-acted call from Tails. Every character in here has a multitude of voice lines, and the acting is uniformly not bad.
Hey Sonic, are you there?
Yeah, it, seems empty.
Empty? This is just getting odd. According to this, there should be—
Wait a second, I see something.
Apart from maybe one instance. Just after we finish that call with Tails, Sonic gazes into the distance and an unknown voice trickles down to us.
This will have to do for now, but it won't take long before I can use its full potential. I just need a few more souls. Much more.
I don't think giving .exe, the entity that takes over Sonic, a voice of its own was ever going to work, but if I was casting for it, I'd have chosen something far more distorted and inhuman. That sounds like Barry the car salesman trying to sound as edgy as possible. It takes over Sonic's body, and Tails, worried about his friend, heads out in the tornado to check on him. Green Hill Zone is now covered in bodies, and we're beginning to see how this will fit in as a Sonic.exe game. It takes the core concept and fleshes it out into a character-driven story instead of just a ride through a haunted house. We find Sonic acting strange, which is when we're presented with a choice: follow his lead or ditch him. There are several choices throughout the game, each one a binary decision. While it is fun to be able to interact with the story a little and feel like your choices matter, your choices only mean one thing: live or die. You don't get branching story paths or different gameplay sections, you get to keep playing with that character, or you don't. It's a tool that adds replay value by adding cheap trial and error. These choices aren't based on your memory or puzzles or finding a secret that gives you a clue to which is the correct move. They're guesswork. Some of them seem like smarter decisions than others, but being handed press the green or red button with no hint is a pure coin flip. If we choose to ditch Sonic, we escape to Flaming Angel Island and come to the ever-memorable chase. The music builds, but no Sonic presents himself, and suddenly a jump appears, and if you miss it, you die. Not lose a life, die. Sonic.exe drops down next to you and hits you with a spin dash, doing Tails in for good. I actually don't mind this that much though. I could have reacted in time to jump. I messed up. There are consequences and now something to gain from a second playthrough. Replaying to be better is fine. Just don't take the mistake out of my hands. From here on out, we can no longer play as Tails, and the story diverges depending on which characters you manage to keep alive. Knuckles receives a message from Tails while drifting through the red sky like a leaf on the wind. Knuckles declares that he should probably explore the strange place, and I have to ask, where are you and how did you get here? Well, whatever. We bump into Sonic, who drops a jump scare on us, and we begin. Our goal is to pick up these red rings, which either cause an illusion or dispel an illusion, and find our way through the level. The effect of these rings only lasts a short time before you find another to make it through the next illusion. The bigger wrench in the gears is that whenever you pick one up, Sonic.exe knows your location and bears down on you like an angry ring wraith. The only way to escape him through this section is quick use of spin dashes. Would you like to know how I know all the information I just gave you? Because the game didn't tell me shit. And this is Spirits of Hell's greatest shortcoming, its lack of clear information. Not only is there no objective given to the player, the map layout is, I'm so sorry, but it's disgraceful. Tails was honestly fine, but from here on it's so messy. You can't head left, only right. You meet a wall with some spikes, and to its credit, the wall has some phantom knuckles on it to let you know that you're supposed to climb. I don't know how much that would have helped if I didn't already know, but it's trying. Make it up the wall and meet a giant pillar. You have seen the entire level so far. What do you think you have to do right now? You have to jump off and glide to the left until you land on top of this platform that you had no reason to believe would be available. That's where you'll find the first ring. The screen will flash and Sonic will jump you. You have no way of knowing it's coming. I ran out of lives here, but this is roughly what I was expected to do. Okay, brass tacks. I'm not a Sonic master. I have played pretty much dead zero actual Sonic games in my entire life. I know that places me very much outside the target demographic of Sonic.exe games. The vast majority of people playing the game, making this game, testing this game, are Sonic fans. They probably know how to do all this without question, know all the controls without thinking. I get that. Maybe this isn't an experience that should cater to people who've never played Sonic before, and honestly, that's fair enough. So I'm not going to criticize the game for this design, for being a challenge meant for skilled Sonic fans. But I'll tell you what I will criticize. Eggman and his stupid fucking jetpack. In the next section of the game, you will not be surprised to learn we play as Eggman, his base under attack by Sonic. As he begins to escape, he finds a broken jetpack. Fortunately, thank you God, Dan the Patient Bear has heard my plea. The jetpack is mapped for use on the X key. Unfortunately, Dan the Patient Bear is Russian, and the instructions for the jetpack are not only inadequate, they are quite literally incorrect. Hold X and left or right to shoot off in that direction. Got it. Hold X and up to shoot upwards. Got it. Hold X and up in the air, wait, then release. Literally, what the fuck are you talking about? It took me a full 2 minutes to figure out what I was supposed to do. If you rocket jump into the air and then tap X while holding up, left or right, you will do an additional uncharged jump in that direction. What will never be explained to you, and what you must come to learn in order to beat the level, is that with this movement, you can use the rocket run and jump to cross a huge area without touching the floor. That will never be tutorialized. You have to figure that out. It is imperative. And the thing is, it's not impossible to figure that out. I'm sure plenty of people realized that ability was in your arsenal, and I might be in the minority who didn't, but it still seems like something that should have been presented to the player. I could have realized, but I shouldn't have had to. This all comes back around to the game's core problem, its lack of guidance. The jetpack doesn't exist in any 2D Sonic game. Every player will be meeting this blind, and in the same way there's no way to know you're going to have 5 seconds to live if you don't start moving after grabbing the red ring, there is no way to learn what to do without it just happening. Look, I'm willing to admit that the jetpack thing might just be me being stupid, and I just want to vent, but it is a good example of the game's problem. A problem that only gets worse in the rest of Eggman's level. We beat the tutorial. Sonic.exe comes after us, but we put up a barrier and escape into Eggman's level proper. It makes literally no sense from a level design aspect. You're on a long platform with a pit in the middle. You can't go back, only left, and at the end there's a wall of springs. You cannot jump over the wall of springs. You cannot bounce off the wall of springs to get anywhere new. In fact, the wall of springs serves literally no purpose. This is the first thing you will meet in Eggman's level, and it literally is not intended to be interacted with at all. No, you have to jump down the pit. Obviously, you idiot. You drop down, then go right and jump on this spring, and then jump on this other spring, and then jet jump onto this top section, and then haphazardly get across these conveyors, and then do the rocket forwards jump to get over all these springs. That's the only path you can take to get to the end of the level, but there are plenty of other sections that break off and lead to nowhere, or just back to a point on the path, but not like in a shortcut way, more like in a detour way. Even during the tutorial, I managed to walk through a wall and into something, and the game punished me with instant death. I did it twice just to make sure I wasn't missing something about this secret, but no, I think the game is just killing me for escaping the map. Some people might be unhappy about my criticism here, and it might seem like I'm nitpicking or being overly harsh, but what you need to understand is that the reason it's so frustrating, much like in End of the World, is that I really want to enjoy this game. I want to see what it has to offer. I want to say it's amazing, but this one thing is holding it back so much, and I just wish they'd spent a little more time making the experience all that much more enjoyable. I'm now going to tell you about the rest of the game because it's really fun and a lot of hard work and love clearly went into it. I won't be able to tell you about the gameplay though because from here on out, the footage is not me playing. All credit to Sunfire on YouTube who is much better than me at this game. If you survive as Tails, you make your way into the caves and a new mechanic enters the game, Stealth. Sonic patrols the level looking for Tails, and you must keep behind these rocks. You will actually be given instruction here, find a way out, don't get caught, and if you do, find the rocket. I know I've complained often about games that don't let Sonic and friends go fast, but this is a really creative bit of gameplay, and here's a bunch of little platforms, now jump across them, is not. Get through this and you can find a giant ring that leads to somewhere else, chiefly away from Sonic.exe. Get past the extensive section of Knuckles and the hallucinatory red rings before guessing that it is in fact the red button that lets you live, and you escape in much the same way. Get past where I gave up with Eggman, and he'll try to escape on an elevator that Sonic.exe breaks. At the bottom is a clear homage to the level in Sonic.exe. You're now given a new ability, the shield. Pressing C activates it and allows you through these columns of steam, or whatever they are, and you make it to this ring. Once they've all escaped, they regroup. Unfortunately, Sonic.exe attacks, and the three of them have to basically face down their own boss fight against him before escaping, living to fight another day, but failing to separate Sonic from whatever dark entity has entered him. Despite my criticism, this is awesome. It's taking Sonic.exe in a whole new direction and putting so much love into it. Yes, the gameplay could be improved, but it's amazing how much they built for this game and how often they try to change things up and keep it fresh. This game almost has to be ranked on a different scale than everything else. Visuals, mostly just reused from classic Sonic, and the proprietary art is, well, honestly, not the best. Gameplay, mixed for all the reasons I've explained. Scares, let's get real, this is a stretch to even call a horror game. There's some gore, but Sonic.exe never feels like an unstoppable threat. The game doesn't give off a haunted vibe, it never breaks the fourth wall. And yet it's a gem amongst Sonic.exe games. It gets an A despite everything, because it broke the mold, broke new ground in a million different ways. Someone really fucking tried to make something special here, and it shows. Sonic.exe Untold Origins is made by Not So Devi. Oh no, oh jeez. Okay, fine, let's give it a shot. The game's unpacked zip file comes with a note from Kyle, your friend who sent you the disc of Sonic.exe to destroy. That's the setup for the original Sonic.exe story. Very cute. We start and get some visual options, and I turn everything on. This includes the resolution of a Sega Genesis and the aperture grille of an old TV. It looks great, I get why you might turn it off, but this is so much more fun and sets you into the mindset of someone playing the original Sonic with visuals alone. We have this unique character select, but you'll notice we can only choose Sonic. The game is going to present us with the events that took place before the Miss Crimson version of Sonic.exe. This is the game that Kyle played before he met with his fate and passed it on, hoping his friend could destroy it. We make our way through Green Hill Zone and find a weird monitor. This is the second game to be fully voice acted, so check this out.
What is that? Looks like a monitor with me on it? What do I do?
The voice acting is alright, but some of the deliveries really cracked me up.
I feel like maybe I should spin dash into that.
When you do, Sonic.exe is unleashed and Sonic passes out only to reawaken in a ruined green hill strewn with bodies. We bump into Sonic.exe who starts choking us before placing us into a trap. A ceiling of spikes descends upon us, but if you move fast enough, you can get to the warp ring and end up in a new world. We've got a groovy background, but This is where I got stuck. Sonic.exe tries to chase you. There are no obstacles, no interactables. You can't go any faster than I'm going. But he catches me, and then the same thing again, and then I surrender and let Sunfire take it from here. This is what I was supposed to do. I have no idea what I was doing wrong. Regardless, make it to that ring and beat the game. Sonic.exe addresses you personally, and then, in a really neat touch, changes your background. I like that a lot. Okay, Devi, credit where it's due. You might have redeemed yourself from the last game. In case you've forgotten, Devi is the maker of SNOC.SMEXEY, which I passionately hated. This, however, is really decent. Sonic.exe being given a voice is always a hard sell, and while I don't think this quite feels perfect, the vocal effects go a long way. Visuals, standard, nothing exceptionally impressive in the art department, but I do really appreciate the visual effects overlays. Gameplay, this is actually the first game in a while that doesn't use the Sonic Worlds engine to do all the work on that front. This is done with the Ruby framework, which means Devi had to do a lot more, and I'll give that credit. That said, we can't peel out, and the spin dash controls are weird. Scares, very light. The moment you give Sonic.exe a voice, it's really hard to make him genuinely scary. I give props to the desktop background change, but otherwise not much to write home about. I'll pop it in at the top of B tier. Stick to this, Devi. You're way better at it. Sonic the Comrade.exe is made by Raywick for Matey Mark, the same YouTuber SNOC.SMEXEY was made for. This one is made almost entirely in Paint, and honestly, while it's definitely not a good game and it's never chuckle-worthy, the fact it's all made in Paint is way more charming than shitty memes for all the textures. There's obviously a bunch of in-jokes from Matey Mark's community, which I don't get. I don't think they'd be funny anyway, but this is built for one specific purpose and one specific person. There's no time wasting, and at the end, Sonic.exe asks Eggman to get Tails and Chuckles to join his team, and it's a happy ending. Yeah, you know, whatever. This wasn't made for me, but it's not offensive. It can have a D, I guess. There's probably a bunch of Matey Mark fans watching. Feel free to tell me your thoughts on this and SNOC.SMEXEY in the comments. Maybe they're really funny if you get it. Eggman's Escape is by Matuxa Sirius, and I didn't know when I downloaded it that it was all in Russian. You play as Eggman. It can be assumed you are trying to escape, so here we are. We're in the flying egg ship. Couldn't even hazard a guess as to what he's saying, but the sky is black and the sea is red. We land on this island and start running, and this is what it's like when you hit the spikes. There are some Sonic.exe scattered about. I nimbly dodged that one and jump into a warp ring to find myself in Eggman's lair. I run through his workshop for a bit, find this pod with Metal Sonic inside, and then the game cuts and halts for a really long time on this scene. It appears to be Eggman and some of his robots being held at gunpoint in the snow by some sort of military personnel. They appear to have submachine guns larger than their torsos. Then we cut back and Metal Sonic is out of the pod, and then we fight Sonic.exe and he kicks my ass repeatedly because I have no idea how to fight him. Look how much is happening on screen. Are these health bars or timers? The only thing I can figure out for sure is if the Sonic.exes touch me, the yellow one goes down really fast, and when it hits the bottom, I game over. The red one, I have no clue what's going on with that guy. Everything moves way too fast for me to be able to dodge it because I have the standard Sonic controls of needing to build up momentum, so dodging is off the table. D would probably be an E if I knew what was going on. A Common Sonic is made by Rabbit12, and honestly guys, this one and the last one, it's Friday night. I like to get at least 2 of these done a day, but I just got home from work. I got work really early tomorrow, and that's basically why I chose these 2. The game opens in a window, and unlike most of the games, Alt-Enter doesn't work. I had to press F4 to full screen. Then I was Tails, and there's no collision. I can just sail right through these hills like a fox through a trash can. This game pretty much looks like my driveway the next morning, too. I jumped at the wrong time, and I'm not sure what happened, but I think I died instantly, and then I was Knuckles, and I took like 6 steps, and then I was dead again, and then I was stuck on this screen for a real long time. It turned out I had to click, which is the only time you need a mouse for the entire game. When I figured it out, I became Sonic in a black void, and Tails was there, and I jumped over him, and I think these like stray balled up pieces of paper killed me. I couldn't get around, so I touched Tails and I teleported to his level. Weirdly, I don't think this happened when I was Tails, but there's a bunch of invisible walls. It's like around the sunflowers and the tops of the totem poles. In any other game, I'd say this really damaged my experience, but honestly, I've got no fucking clue what's going on right now. Tails was at the end of the level, and I jumped over him, and then I went back to the beginning of the level, so I did it again, and I tried to touch him, and I couldn't touch him, so then I kept going, and I fell off the screen, and that was when the bad end. I had to Alt F4 to leave this screen. So this one's pretty good. I don't think it's quite as good as PC port, but the gameplay was really strong. Maybe just a little below Sonic.EYX. Maybe just below Untold Origins. Just below Sonic.HTML. It's like maybe just like a tiny bit below Sully.SMEXEY. Horribly perfect right there, snugly between Sonic.VHS and Sonic 13. There you go. I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty respectable position. I really need to go to bed right now. Sonic..exe Remaster is made by your local Sonic fan, and it's got a bit of an interesting history. I mentioned earlier, a lot earlier, that the original story that Sally.exe was based off of was plagiarized. It was a written version of a YouTube video uploaded by a user called Chinolin. So this game, Chinolin Remaster, is an almost one-for-one playable version of that video. The main difference between the two is that instead of being Amy, Cream, and Sally, we are Sonic using his 3 lives. Beyond that, it is very simply Sally.exe. I can't really dock it points for that, or for its mildly uninventive gameplay. It was never meant to be an ingenuitive new Sonic.exe game. It's supposed to be Sonic Chinolin in playable form, and at that it succeeds. I actually chose this one because now I've slept, I wanted to give you a more interesting game, and the download for this one is 149 megabytes zipped. That is, I think, the second biggest game we've played, and I have no idea why. This game does have one really outstanding thing in it though, something I did not expect and something I genuinely thought was not possible. After I game overed my last life, I was stuck on this game over screen, and after like 2 minutes, to the point where I genuinely thought that that was the end, the game jump scared me, but that's not the crazy part. After that, it gave me 3 options: kill Sonic.exe, exit the game, or shut down computer. So out of curiosity, just to see what happened, I hit shut down computer. And goddamn, if it didn't shut down my computer. Give me like a 10-second warning, and then hard shut down my PC. I did not think that was possible. I am really impressed that this game, of all games, pulled that off. It would be extremely irritating to have to restart after every game, don't get me wrong, but how is this the first one to actually turn off my computer? When that's literally what happens at some point in almost all Sonic.exe stories. C, for the game's actual content. B, just because it did that. Sonic Dark Pit's extended demo is made by Call Me Vincent, and you can't blame me for thinking this one was gonna break our streak here. One of the resources I've been using is a Game Jolt collection of Sonic.exe games, and it labels this as Dark Pit's Remaster. If someone went to that effort, it's gotta be pretty solid, right? And 182 megabytes download, so it's clearly pretty fleshed out. Well, I'll temper that a bit. This certainly isn't an awful game, it just has a lot to criticize, I'm afraid. It's the classic Sonic.exe fare of playing Tails, then Knuckles, then Eggman, but with a few tweaks. The first thing you'll notice when you load is the controls. The game is not built with the Sonic Worlds engine, and that leaves me a little conflicted. On the one hand, I admire people not taking the easy route. Just to get the sprites and controls in here took a lot more effort than in Sonic Worlds, but on the other hand, well, Sonic Worlds exists. If you're not going to use it, then there should be a good reason, something that explains why you chose not to. Sometimes I think the answer is just that the developer wanted to practice without it, building from the ground up like they would to make any other game, and that's fair enough. Should it mean I give you credit? If you took the hard route and your game feels bad to play, is that more admirable than taking the easy route and your game feeling good to play? The bottom line is Dark Pits doesn't feel good to play. The jump button can be held to bounce endlessly, there's no spin dashing or peeling out, the collision gets dodged, running or jumping against a wall almost always bugs out. Getting moving, you can see that Green Hill at least looks like it should. Visually, the art isn't noticeably dissimilar from the classic Sonic. What is different is Green Hill's level structure. For some reason, the developer decided on very long jumps that you can only really make by using Coyote Time. Coyote Time being an industry term, in most games, you can jump for a split second after you're no longer on the ground, reminiscent of how Wile E. the Coyote floats in midair before his horrible, child-friendly death. Point is, it feels extremely janky and isn't something the game engine handles very well when it means landing on the very edge of a platform, and as we already know, the game engine ain't Gucci with that. Eventually you'll get to the dark green hill, and then touching Sonic will take you to the character select. Taking Tails into the next level, you'll be met with this. I think we're supposed to be in a cave with red lighting, but you can already see the limits of the developer's art skills, I'm afraid. Then we get to the well-rehearsed Tails chase, but it is a little different here. Mostly in that you can actually affect gameplay. You get a head start to try and move around the obstacles, and then he'll come for you. I'm assuming you can beat this and get some sort of secret, but, well, these edges are nasty. I just keep getting stuck on them. But Sonic doesn't end Tails. He chases him now up to this floor full of spikes, where Tails pauses and then finally motions for us to head onwards. It's actually super dark. I'm gonna censor it, because, wow, jeez. Then we're on to Knuckles level. I did think that there were some fun, creepy ideas in Tails section, some switch-ups, things that could be developed into a decent product. From here on out, however, I don't have many compliments left in me. Knuckles plays extremely like Tails, but he can punch. Something is wrong with the punch though. I spent a full 2 minutes trying to get past this block because the punch just wouldn't land. You need to be standing in some kind of frame-perfect spot or Knuckles just swings wide every time. The rest of this level is run right until Sonic and then die. Eggman, I discovered, can climb walls with ease. I'd like to see Sonic get me up here. I don't know if Eggman's level is just broken, but there is no apparent exit or interactable here. I can go through this weird door, but it just puts me in a box. No collectibles, nothing. I had to just Alt F4 and go on with my day. The developer claims this is a demo, so hopefully they don't take the criticism too harshly when I say this really needs some more time in the oven. The gameplay and controls just aren't there, and while I respect the ideas they're trying to introduce the Tails section, the gameplay just can't back it up. I'll give it a C, just scraping a pass. Guys, I've been saving the last part of the One More Time trilogy as a break glass in case of emergency type of deal. I think I might have to hit it. Sonic Mega CD port retake is by Sonhack and it's 700 megabytes. You have to understand, I really thought this one had to be good, or at least interesting. Look at this matrix of files, there's got to be some real effort put into this. There's no way this can be a shoddily constructed mess. There's even some extra story, a real different take on this whole thing according to the Game Jolt page. Sonic the Hedgehog Sega CD Enhanced, Sonic 1 Sega CD version, Sonic Mega CD port, Sonic.exe Lost VHS Tapes Remake is the version of how Sonic.exe would have been by Sonic 2008. Matthias.exe. In this version, the game is a cancelled Sega CD port of Sonic 1, and X is the ghost of your dad. Wow. Okay. I can't wait to see that get explored. Let's do this. So, you have to hunt around in this matrix of files here and enter beginning part, logically, and run it. And now, we're in. Starts by setting the scene with this Sega Genesis warning, like you're not supposed to run the game in this device. This is a pirated version of the game. We're really laying the groundwork here. This is a dangerous move I'm making, even trying to play this. Fortune favors the bold. Let's do this thing. How do I do this thing? Is there a button to press? I've pressed everything on the keyboard, nothing's happening. Okay, guess this must be one of those where you close and reopen it to make it move on. I'm really not a fan of that. It breaks the experience and doesn't give me any instruction. I'd much rather it just keep going, but okay. Well, this is still the same scene. By this point, my housemate walked in and asked if I was playing Mortal Kombat the way I was just mashing all the keys. Guys, do you want the truth? This is beginning part. This is all it is. All the assets in this file, it's all just for this. To progress, you have to open part 2 manually. It closed itself 1 minute and 11 seconds later. Every single part has to be manually ran from the file. Even Chronic.Kush managed to play the entire game in one go. The entire game is 20 minutes, and about 2 of those minutes will be spent navigating the file explorer. And all it is Sonic.exe followed by Sally.exe. That's all it is. That thing about Sonic being your dad, it amounts to 14 lines of dialogue at the end of Eggman's part. I want to be honest with you. I understand your fear. I had this feeling too for a long time. However, I'm still mad at you. You really still don't get it. You really still don't what I am. You fool! I am what you made me. However, over time I've become so much more. Oh, so much more. I've become a virus, a ghost, a demon, but above all else, what I've finally become. God. Other than that, it doesn't play well, it doesn't look great. It finally ends the final part with Morse code that reads, an old friend. Not friend, friend. They missed the D. Oh boy. Look, the thing is, this isn't an awful mess. Someone made it for fun to see what they could do. I respect that. I'm just so very tired, man. I've played so many Sonic.exe games, and there's still so many left to go. If you made it this far, thank you. The channel takes so much of my time and mental space, and it's thanks to kind comments that I have the energy to keep working, and thank you to all the people who made Sonic.exe games. Drop a comment with the code word. I didn't even think Sonic.exe is that sexy, to be honest. Let's see if we can make that the top comment. Alright, I'm done being soppy. This game gets a D. What have we got next? Sonic.exe Revived is made by Night.ACCIO, and somewhat unsurprisingly, it's the original Sonic.exe with updated graphics and controls. This is our character select, and immediately it inspires confidence, the colors pop, and the sprites look good. Tails level, and all levels, do have a couple major flaws though. Night.ACCIO has updated the look, yes, but not the level design. This is another run right to progress game, and for whatever reason, you move much slower than standard. At this point, I've realized no challenges might be a blessing compared to frustrating challenges, but I'd still appreciate something to do. I can't even jump. Knuckles can punch, and after you run right for nearly a minute and a half, you have cause to use it to dispel the ghosts of Tails. Eggman's level is just run down the stairs until Sonic gets you, but at least Eggman's run cycle looks pretty good. Doesn't look like he's got 4 legs, but moves at the speed of a man with 1. This is the game's end screen, and there's no way to close it, so I had to once again restart my PC to silence it. If you're going to put me in that position, at least have the balls to go full Sonic channel in and do it yourself. It's a prettier version of Sonic.exe, what can I say? That said, I think you might find more satisfaction in playing the original. There's none of the updated content Crimson added to that game, and I think those were the best bits. It's going in at the end of C tier, a pass, but I wouldn't particularly recommend it. Exefender Horror was made by someone who presumably never said the name out loud? Exefender. How did that even happen? What does it even mean? Because it only sounds like one thing, and Sonic.exe is a bad guy, but I don't think that was ever established. The creator is called Sonic Gamer Jolter using the Simple Sonic Worlds engine, and perhaps I'm giving too little credit to the people who use that engine. This game doesn't feel right at all. We're in full ice level. At full speed, it takes about 3 seconds to slow to a stop. Getting moving takes nearly as long. This level here in the rain looks pretty nice though. I don't recognize the tail sprite, but it looks pretty good. I like the rain coming down, the dark, the atmosphere is here. This sign is weirdly amateur, but Jesus Christ, what am I looking at? Original Doom called, it wants its pixel density back. And an explosion in a paint factory called, it wants its complete lack of color coordination back. The longer I stare at this screen, the more I see. Is that a couch? Shit, is that a fireplace or... I mean, what the hell is that? We could be here all day. Sonic.exe grabs you, game over, the end. This is just a cancelled demo, but I couldn't not share that visual with you. Plus, I'm already done talking about it. This, I would say, is a... God, I don't know. The first half is pretty alright, aside from the controls. The house, though... You know what? Let's give it a C. It's unfair to be too harsh on a 2-minute demo. Sonic the Real Hedgehog is made by Janna Games, and I can't give you any better expectation than the game jolt description. Epic game, many memes, and meme music, finally one playable level in version 0.0.35 with boss fight contains buggies. XD. Oh god, please no. This is the title screen, this is what the game looks like. You guys know exactly how I feel about the games that just use memes for every texture and don't do anything interesting with... Wait, is this a Sonic.exe game? No, I don't think it is, actually. Well, I'm gonna tell you about it anyway. Every sound is an XD funny meme, everything is a funny meme, and in a style that's so deeply of its era that... Guys, I really hate to say this, but I kinda like this one, because everything is a meme. Look how many they got in there, but it doesn't just feel lazy like Chronic.Kush. It's a time capsule of the MLG style that became a blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't feel lazy like Chronic.Kush. It's a time capsule of the MLG style that became a subculture of internet comedy in the mid-2010s. But it's also a complete playable game, and it's honestly one of the best actual Sonic levels I've played for the entire video. It landed that exact feeling of difficult, but with a bit of practice making you feel like a light speed god. I can't rank it because it's not a Sonic.exe game, but it will be a solid B. A if the game deciding if you hit something or landed on it didn't feel like a coin flip half the time. Alright, I'm sure you're as sick as I am of playing unknown, underwhelming games, so I've decided to actually do my research, and from here on out, we're aiming for nothing but net, starting with Sonic.exe Project X by Romeo Hosting, made for the second Luigi Kid Challenge, and being the game proclaimed his 5th favourite. Let's see if I agree. Immediately, its main inspiration is more on its sleeve. Sonic.exe faces away from us and asks if we're afraid to enter and if we're willing to play by his rules. First problem, for whatever reason, clicking yes or no works 1 in every 500 times I clicked. I had to do it 4 times, and I could not tell you what makes it decide to accept my input. My mouse is hidden, so you can't see me rapidly clicking every inch of the screen for 3 minutes straight before the game arbitrarily decides one of those clicks counts. We finally get into the game and Tails is in Green Hill. The level is not too hard, but plays well, everything feels as it should. By flying over a lot of the stage, you can reach an invisible wall, by the base of which is this boyo. He has nothing to say, I give him a howdy hi, and be on my way. Head down this S-tube and bump into EXE. And the game turns to dark Green Hill. Knuckles and Eggman's bodies already adorn the trees around us. The only way up into this tube is to peel out into it, something that I didn't know you could do, and I had to watch a video to find out. Once out, you've got 2 options. Search the level and collect the black rings, or head down an S-tube back near the level's start. At the bottom of that S-tube is this. A grim, mangled Knuckles monster slowly drags itself towards Tails. Escape sealed, it bears its great ugly maw, and then... Oh, cut to black? Lame. Still, pretty cool monster though. If you collect all the rings instead, Tails becomes a husk. The world is lava and greystone temples. We even have to step through the lava to make it forward. Tails forced through torment until finally... I guess that's it. Okay. Controls are very good. Gameplay also up there. We've got a complete level with obstacles and collectibles. I would love to see that. Visuals also very solid. I'd say the Knuckles monster almost hits outstanding. The Eggman, Sonic, and Knuckles strewn around the level are nice touches too. Scares? Could have done with more. Sonic jump scares you on the title screen and the Knuckles monster is cool, but I want a little more interactivity with the player. To me, that's what really sets a Sonic.exe game apart, when it breaks the 4th wall in a creative manner. Other than a slightly alternative story to original Sonic.exe, this game doesn't do anything really inventive to put it over the top. Luigi Kid agrees.
I really like the game. Sadly, it's the same fucking formula over and over again that we have already seen in other games that were amazing, like Sonic.exe One Last Round.
It gets a B, so why did Luigi Kid put this in his top 5? Well, hopefully it's something to do with the game's second part. Whiskas.exe is made by Ukrainian game jolt creator IC003969 and was recommended not only by Forever.exe, but also by Grenadier20 in my YouTube community. It is a very old rendition of the game, circa 2014, I believe. Despite it having been recommended to me multiple times, I can't find any real info about it online, only a Russian fandom page that just lists the gameplay moments. It is actually very similar to Forever.exe. Both Sonic.exe and Sally.exe are delivered in one package, and there is gameplay. It's not good gameplay, it controls poorly with unbalanced difficulty, but the effort is what counts. It's all run away from spikes that are making their way across or down the stage, nothing mind-blowing, but for such an early Sonic.exe game, I'll give it props. Also, bear in mind that there was no simple Sonic worlds or game engine tools that would make this so much easier to construct today. Still, with that said, my thoughts are very similar to Forever.exe 2.5 hours ago. Light on scares, weak on visuals, gameplay gets points, but it's not nice to play. There are secrets and supposedly some secret levels, but, well, I don't want to play it again. If you beat the quiz with Sally, you die anyway, by the way. Might be the same with all the minigames. I failed to beat any of them. Also, the tone of the game, especially in the music choices, at some points it feels like parody, but it still has attempts at scares. Then there's images like this. The game says it's meant for ages 16 and up, so I can only assume the creator thought this would be taken seriously. In summation, it has gameplay which the original Sonic.exe doesn't, but it lacks the atmosphere, the scares, the visual cohesion, and doesn't even feel like it wants me to take it seriously at some points. I can understand why you'd be creeped out as a child by the first game, but Whiskas.exe can't commit to the tone. It gets a C and goes in below the original. Sonic.exe Project X Knuckles part is once again made by Romeo Hosting, and the follow-up entry into Project X is challenging that top spot hard, and there are several very good reasons why it might just deserve it. Just take a moment to admire the sheer fidelity of this menu. Sonic has a different pose for each selection, teeth clamping down when we choose one. Nothing could possibly inspire more confidence. And the title screen, watch as it's grabbed and pulled asunder, the screamer that shrinks the window and causes it to violently shake. So much effort, so much care. We play as Knuckles, and as far as I can tell, all the art in this game is proprietary. No assets copied from the original Sonic games. It looks all the better for it. I'll admit that during the first level here, I did clip through a wall and cause this to happen. But that was both neat to see and, honestly, don't even mind resetting. Every single death in this game comes with a screen like this. You want to procure every different kind of fatality just to see this art. Just admire all the things there are to witness in this game. We have a scavenger hunt, a chase section, a stealth section, a section where you have to run between light sources to protect yourself. So many different styles that always keep you on your toes, and all the while just present you with art piece after art piece. Finally, we find Metal Sonic, and he clashes with Exefender, as this version of Sonic.exe is called. They butt heads, and we end with an animated cutscene, flitting between art masterpieces. Eggman's head crushed, Metal Sonic's visor smashed beneath Exender's fist, and finally, Knuckles running for his life, failing to escape. Absolutely magnificent. With just one small thing I forgot to mention. I gave up on the second gameplay section. This game is not fun. It's unbelievably frustrating and way too hard. And that's not just me, a Sonic amateur, saying that. I've heard so many others, including Luigi Kid, echoing my feelings. The game gives you so little direction and expects you to just figure it out. It presents you with a chase that requires attempt upon attempt of trial and error just to learn how to not be killed in its traps. Scavenger hunts that are banal, directionless, and nothing better than a chore. This feedback was given by Luigi Kid when this first released. It has since been updated in huge ways, but nothing to decrease the monotonous difficulty. In fact, Romeo responded by adding a new section of the game that was the hardest of all. The level design never pushes you towards the goal, always leaves you feeling aimless, wandering around, hoping you find whatever it is that lets you progress and see the rest of the breathtaking set piece. This is an awesome experience completely ruined by gameplay that's nothing short of a tribulation. Do you have any idea how many times I died in the chase? And when I looked it up, I don't think I was even halfway. Nothing kills the atmosphere of an experience like this faster than frustration, turning what should be tense and fear-inducing into a slog. As a general rule of thumb, a linear horror experience should always lean towards being more forgiving than it appears, because the more times the player replays, the more it's going to feel like a game. Every death relaxes the tension just a little bit, and 40 deaths back to back turns your tight horror game into a floppy noodle. I do not recommend playing this game. I recommend watching Sunfire play it on YouTube. If you're wondering how we're playing as Knuckles when we saw his body and his great deformed monster version in the previous game, there is an explanation. Exefender and his 4 demonic friends, one of which being Tails here, travel from dimension to dimension slaughtering the inhabitants, so all these other Sonic and Eggmans are from the dimensions they've ripped apart before. I do really appreciate the creativity and craft in this project, but It just lets itself down with how frustrating it is to play. The developer, Romeo Hosting, just gets in his own way for some reason. It gets an A, I can't give it any less, but honestly, it's such a shame. With a little more care and tweaking to the level design, it could be that S, I'm sure of it. Sonic.RIBS is made by Rabbit-X and is Luigi Kid's proclaimed third favorite Sonic.exe game. This rendition of Sonic.exe possesses necromancy, which he can use to resurrect his victims for further torture, forcing them to watch the torment of their friends. He stinks of dried blood and decomposing organs, likely from his gaping chest cavity. He's also tall as shit, brother. This guy's 6'6", coming in to hoover up all the baddies in the club. Damn, boy. More importantly, his game is awesome, ball to ball, no buried lead this time. The gameplay is 100% playable. I didn't feel stuck once, always progressing towards something even though I never knew what to expect next. The game includes both Tails and Knuckles sections and plenty of gameplay in each of them. They both have a mixture of above and below water, putting you up against a timer to hit buttons and escape before oxygen runs out. I'll admit, this gameplay is far from revolutionary. Mostly it just allows you to explore the world and soak in the atmosphere, but my, what an atmosphere it is. All thanks to the fantastic visuals, but even more so to incredible audio. Both of the musical tracks accompanying the characters' levels are nerve-shredding, thumping back and forth bass with just the right amount of crunch to make you wonder if that's just music or something might be starting to follow you. The rattling, dragging footsteps of something great and no doubt indescribably terrible relentlessly stalking you. When a game sets a vibe like that with sound alone, that's something special. When it comes to horror, it's always been 10% the visuals, 90% the sound, and this game kills it on the sound, no pun intended. But that's not to say the visuals lack. No, they're not as strong as Project X, but that's comparing a big bucket of KFC chicken wings to a really big bucket of KFC chicken wings. Either way, I'm going to shit myself later. The game doesn't pull as much fourth wall breaking as PC port, but it does have some pop-ups telling you that settings are being changed. The game is adding and removing files. It never does go far enough to create a new file or change a background or really break that wall in a creative way. That really is the core of Sonic.exe games, even more than having Sonic.exe as a character. Some of you might hate me for this, but it's got everything PC port has while including some actual gameplay. Time to soak in the atmosphere if nothing else. I was also never a fan of PC port repeatedly closing itself and forcing me to reopen it manually. It broke the flow more than it added anything. Plus, there's just more of .RIBS than of PC port remake. RIBS takes the top spot for me right now. But it might not last long, because I know the rest of the games on my list are supposed to be genre bests. Take for example, Sonic Fear Tails Doll the Murderer Remake is developed by Vertidero G. Macaro from the original game created by Yes Men 10. The original game formed the first pillar in a trilogy, but the sequels have yet to get the remake treatment. That word remake, though, might be doing somewhat of a disservice to Vertidero's work, as this is more of a reimagining of the story, as well as a huge overhaul of the gameplay, and that's the first thing I'd like to compliment in this game. The gameplay sections are not only numerous, but all wickedly good Sonic levels that fully embrace how Sonic is supposed to play. They're possible to lose, but they're not difficult. I managed to make it most of the way through the game on my first playthrough as a complete imbecile. What makes them really engaging is the number of alternate routes and shortcuts, suggesting that if you made the right move at the right time, you could have saved some precious moments and racked up a higher score. The score is arguably not important, but the satisfaction of finding a shortcut or the dissatisfaction of missing one is engaging nonetheless. There are multiple boss fights as well, the first being Tails Doll. The plot of this game involves Sonic fighting Tails Doll, one of Eggman's mechanical lackeys, and breaking him. Tails Doll then goes haywire and begins a rampage with the ability to create illusions and mind control characters. He even demonstrates the ability to duplicate an evil version of Sonic, one with blood pouring from his eyes. Tails Doll ends what appears to be every Mobian creature. There's even a gameplay section in which you play as Tails Doll and turn the happy creatures of the world into not-so-happy bloodstains. Before that, we play as Tails and Knuckles, neither of whom escape their awful fate at the hands of a mind-controlled Sonic and malfunctioning robot Tails. Sonic does regain some control when Sonic.exe is copied from him. Using this opportunity, he makes his way through the Halloween Hill Zone, which is fun if not slightly odd, before facing off with his doppelganger. Should you manage to defeat him, smash cut to credits. That is a whiplash finish, but I think the intent was to see the aftermath in a sequel. Pretty sure that's been cancelled though. This game has clear points where updates were intended to come, and across the last 2 years they never have. Still, what we've got has to be head and shoulders the best gameplay in this entire video. What it doesn't have is scares. I think the original version, which does differ greatly, focused more on that angle. When I say scares, it's not just about shocking screamers and making you jump, though if deployed well, I am more than happy to see them when not overused. Easily overhated as the jump scare because it can be lazy, but without getting too off track, a scare can also be about tension, or about those creative fourth wall breaks. The game doesn't really go in for that kind of bag. Visually, it doesn't do anything wrong, but doesn't have anything above and beyond your basic Sonic the Hedgehog expectations. The game is undoubtedly a strong A, but it's not breaking into those coveted top few spots. Sally.exe Whisper of Soul is made by Dan the Patient Bear and is the sequel to Spirits of Hell. At a brisk pace with no deaths and minimal mistakes while taking time to read the dialogue, reaching the best ending of this game takes just under 3 hours as demonstrated by Sunfire. You think that's a crazy amount of game? That's just one of the impressively divergent 21 possible endings. Don't be fooled into thinking that with just some decent Sonic skills you'll get that ending either. Whisper of Soul is very deliberately a game intended to be repeatedly replayed in order to master it. I couldn't even hazard a guess at how long it would take a person to legitimately achieve all endings and see everything this game offers. And now I have to somehow deliver a review in a matter of minutes. What am I even supposed to do here? The story outline. The game picks up from the best ending of Spirits of Hell, in which 3 playable characters escape Sonic.exe's clutches. Still not truly safe, they gather with Sally, Amy, Rose, and Cream to mobilize the armies of Mobius against Exila, the entity possessing Sonic's body. Depending on the player's choices and who they manage to keep alive, the story diverges down 21 possible routes. Any character could be the only one to survive, any 2 characters could be the only ones, any trio, and of course, for the best ending, all 6 characters must live. There's also an ending where Amy finds out Eggman killed her parents and leads you to the Crazy Amy ending, where she kills the cast herself. One more thing to note is that all of the replaying required to get these endings is canon. Exela has time manipulation abilities, and so is resetting the timeline at every finishing point unless the best ending is achieved and he loses. It's an impressively epic tale and very heavy on the plot. There's even time taken to watch characters bond as they huddle together for safety. Of Sunfire's playthrough of the game's best ending, I'd estimate 75% of it is reading through dialogue instead of gameplay. Keep in mind that's only because Sunfire practically speedruns the gameplay, it would take much longer elsewise. I'll also point out once again that Dan the Patient Bear is Russian, and this game's translation leaves little to be desired grammatically, but the intent is still clear. So, when it comes to story and characters, A star, no competition, nothing else here even holds a candle, it's downright silly. When it comes to the visuals and sound, I have no complaints either. Granted, I don't have any huge praises, the game's visuals serve their purpose and all look appropriate. When we're talking about a game with this much to see in it, that is already grounds for praise. Unlike Spirits of Hell, we don't have any voice acting, but that's arguably for the best. This game's cancelled remake, which only includes the first 2 levels, has fully voiced characters, and I don't want to assume anything here, but that's a pretty masculine voice doing an impression of a little girl if I ever did hear one.
Trust me, we will find him. We should split up. You go to Bingo Festival, and I'll continue here.
Scares-wise, this isn't a horror game. Don't expect any fourth wall breaks or screamers. There is, however, some degree of helplessness and desperation achieved in the gameplay due to the limited resources and harsh punishment for deaths. You have 6 characters and 5 lives apiece. If any of those characters lose all 5 of those lives throughout the entire game, you cannot achieve the best ending. But you will achieve an ending. And that's a very important thing to keep in mind when discussing whether this game falls under the descriptor frustrating. You will be challenged. You will die. You are expected to play each level until you have mastered it. The game does give you a level select in order to achieve such a thing, and the levels are really solid. There will be a lot of memorization required if you want to beat them all legitimately though. Sheer skill alone will not a winner make. There are traps you cannot account for. There are moments that expect you to react faster than could be expected on your first attempt. Each character has their own selection of special skills, from flight to fist to hammer to Sally. Sally has an ethereal sword and shield imbued with the elements. Much of her gameplay will involve hot swapping between these different elements, each one having a completely different ability. Mastering Sally is a feat. She is 5 characters in one, and you are handed all of them at once and expected to roll with it. You will not. You will die. This style isn't really for me, to be honest. I like difficulty, but in a more Dark Souls-y, roguelike-y strategy kind of way. I like to be able to plan ahead, come back stronger, and feel like my time is being rewarded. This kind of gameplay is a bit too banging my head against a wall for me. I know I'm gaining skill as I play, but it feels a little bit too much like work. That's a personal preference, and I don't expect everyone to feel the same, so I won't penalize it too hard. If you don't feel I've adequately broken down Sally.exe Whisper of Soul, then I'd recommend playing it yourself or watching Sunfire's playthrough. Where does this game go on our ranking? That's the question. It undoubtedly beats B tier. Nothing can have this much effort put into it and be called a waste of your time, apart from Project X. But time is what's important here. Would a normal guy, someone who likes video games, plays CSGO and Baldur's Gate, would he get anything out of this game? If I asked him to play this, is there any world in which someone who isn't a Sonic fan takes it to completion? The answer is absolutely not. I know, because I am that guy, and as much creativity and passion as is clearly in this game, I'm not going to finish this video and go back to playing it. To a Sonic.exe fan, this could be your S. This could be one of your favorite games of all time, but to your average Joe Schmo, this is not a particularly valuable experience and not one they'll ever see to completion. The amount of content in the game makes up for its decent but not excellent artwork. It makes up for the lack of scares, but is it the #1 game I recommend someone play? No. Whisper of Soul doesn't beat out RIBS, and it doesn't beat out PC port. I'll give it 3rd place though. Deserves at least that much respect. Sonic.exe 2011, aka Sonic.exe official game, is made by Gamma Epsilon. Well, that's who uploaded it to GameJolt anyway. If you explore the account though, they have only one game uploaded. Their first of 5 community posts reads, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but this can't keep going. I don't have the time for this. I don't want to deal with this. I just want him off my back. I want this game off my back. Never wanted it to get this far." If we peep a little deeper at the game's credits, we can see it has 9 people credited for their roles, including Joe Doughboy as sprite artist and director, and John Kuhn as developer and coder. What does that mean? That means this is made by the same people as Sonic PC port, and that title, Sonic.exe official game, it is absolutely true. So what is this game? It's the most accurate version of the game described in the original Sonic.exe story from 2011. These people sat down and dared to ask, what if we made basic Sonic.exe, but we made it as good as it could possibly be? Turns out, you make a pretty damn good game, short, focused, and true to the real spirit of Sonic.exe. Do you want me to tell you the plot? Do you really? Well, stop me if you've heard this one before, but you play as Tails, then Knuckles, and finally Eggman as Sonic.exe begins to tear down the wall that separates the player from the graphic violence of the game. The differences between this game and Miss Crimson's original are not that numerous, and might not even be that noticeable to the uninformed. Most of it comes down to the visuals, the sound, the time taken to build suspense. There is no gameplay, this is a Sonic.exe haunted house ride, but I've learned to make my peace with that. I've seen how much can go awry when that pool is dipped into. Instead, we are delivered a taut and linear interactive experience that delivers all it's got in a clean 10 minutes. You can walk and you can jump. But the aura, that's what makes all the difference. Knuckles might just run right for a minute and a half, but it is an awesome minute and a half as lightning rolls across the background, flashes of Sonic.exe enjoying the hunt exposed in the light, the complete and utter feeling of helplessness. This is hands down the best horror experience in this entire ranking, and I haven't even got into the ending yet. I don't need to speak. It speaks for me. Pause whatever you're doing on the other monitor and watch this. If I was ranking the best moment in any Sonic.exe game, well baby, this is it right here. Officer, you can call off the search. This is the guy you're after. No, I said stop looking. Stop looking. Don't open that drawer. Don't open that drawer! What else do I possibly add? If this game had just one puzzle in it, one moment where I had to directly engage and explore the world to open a door, it would have that S. But it's just that last step behind RIBS. I still think it's better than PC port Remake though. It's so tight and the aura oozes from the screen. Just oozes. Oh fuck, it's in my keyboard. A. The very top of A. An unimpeded recommendation. Well, well, well. If it isn't my old friend. Who would have thought we'd meet all the way up here? Devi. The Parasite Reformed is made by Not So Devi, creator of SNOC.SMEXEY and Untold Origins. We play as Sonic.exe, battling against an invasion by numerous other demonic incarnations of the blue blur. It's made with simple Sonic worlds, so it feels like it should, and the levels look appropriate, and those levels contain quite a lot of gameplay, pretty good gameplay, if I do say. Sonic is possessed by an EXE in the opening moments, and once we conquer Green Hill Zone, we take Tails to a dark forest. We initiate a game of hide-and-seek and plan to cause his demise, but we're beaten to it. A scream echoes through the trees, and we find Tails' body. The perpetrator was this monster, the Parasite. It teleports us to a snow-covered hilltop, and we enter a chase to escape his clutches. It's a pretty good chase, not too long, but requiring some fun execution to make it between checkpoints. We escape to the demon world and meet yet another incarnation of Sonic with a single glowing eye. We escape again and resurrect Tails to help us. The next level is also pretty fun. There's a good supply of checkpoints and it doesn't overstay its welcome. We have to use a combination of Sonic and Tails abilities to progress and can easily swap between them on the fly. Whether you meet this level or die, you'll meet the same cutscene where our one-eyed friend faces off against Tails, and a boss battle would likely happen if this wasn't the end of the demo. Devi has quite a few games started and not completed, unfortunately, so of course SNOC.SMEXEY is the one he finished and put out a sequel for. Wouldn't want to miss that gold. The gameplay here is really fun, the visuals are pretty good, along the same lines as Whisper of Soul. I would like to see where Devi intended to take it. This is actually a remake of a game not made by Devi that got cancelled before it even got as far as this demo does. I like it, it's pretty good, it's not scary, it's not really a horror game. Playing as Sonic.exe is novel and I really appreciate that creative twist, but other than gameplay and the start of a story, I don't have enough to gush about to place it in A. And I'm so disappointed because that would have made such a good arc, wouldn't it? We accidentally started with Devi's horrible parody game and ended with him in one of our top spots. I was rooting for that comeback so hard. It's a decent B alongside its brother Untold Origins, and with this out the way, we are oh so very close to done here. Wait, can it be? Is it truly time? Oh yeah, we've been waiting for so long, but finally, it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to finally end the suspense and present you with what we've all known was coming. The ultimate top spot contender. This is Sonic.exe One Last. Sunky.MPEG. Oh, you thought I'd forgotten about you, didn't you, you little bitch? You thought you'd escaped. Nothing escapes me! For the uninitiated, Sunky.MPEG is probably the most famous Sonic.exe parody game, a spin-off of the fondly remembered original Sunky game by Looney Dude. Sunky.exe paved a path along which many would tread, and almost as many would embarrassingly trip over their laces and faceplant. The difference with Sunky is that it's got some talent and some real care behind it. The animations are obviously silly looking, the whole game is silly looking, but it's also very good. It's stylistic in its visuals. The gameplay is nothing, you walk right, hilariously slowly as some silly song plays in the background. It goes through every beat of Miss Crimson's Sonic.exe, but presents it as farcically as it possibly can. Sunky.MPEG, unlike Sonic.exe, doesn't care for murder, he only cares for dance. Do you want me to say I hate this little guy? Nah. The game keeps up the pace, doesn't waste your time, and just wants to get its jokes in nice and quick. While I'm here, let's just do its sequel, Silly.TIFF too, why don't we? It's Sally.exe, but instead of killing his friends, Sunky feeds them all cereal. What do you want more? That's it, that's what it is. Just pretty good animation and a bunch of silly meme songs play. It's not laugh out loud funny, it doesn't make me mad. It's pure 6 out of 10. It's fine. They're both B's. What else can I say? Okay. It's time. One last entry. One last ranking. One last Sonic.exe One Last Round is Mr. Pixel's final entry in the trilogy of One More Time games. There are 2 versions, original and repixeled. The original demo version has Tails and Knuckles levels. The repixeled version has Tails level only, but it's still being developed, having been updated as recently as 2 years ago. No advancements since my original Sonic.exe retrospective. This is often cited as the greatest Sonic.exe game ever made, and for good reason. We are first greeted by Sonic.exe, or .omt in this case. He laments that we have done this so many times, that this formula is starting to grow stale. He's going to evolve the experience for one last round. Enter Tails and Green Hill. If you're playing the repixeled version, you'll head right, grab some rings and avoid the obstacles before entering an S-tube that becomes a grisly maw and Sonic strips the flesh from Tails' bones. End of demo. It looks amazing, but there's not much more experience to comment on. If you play the original though, Tails will meet OMT and find himself in a land of darkness and gore. Chances are you'll progress to the right and get your skull crushed under OMT's foot. Then you'll be in with Knuckles, and progressing straight right brings Knuckles to the grisly fate of having his guts sucked out. These are probably the least interesting endings you can attain, and that brings us to the gameplay, and let's just get to the point, shall we? I really didn't want this to be the S. Feels like a cop-out. Not only did I gush about this game in my previous video, but it's generally considered the best. What an uncontroversial pick it is for me to put it in the S spot. Wow, how original, but God, you have to understand. This game pretty much nails the gameplay of a Sonic.exe game. It's not about overcoming a challenge, you're not trying to keep hold of your lives and beat the spike traps and pits. The gameplay in this game is about exploration, finding all the secrets, and finding all the different endings. There's so many different ways to meet your fate. Tails can get his skull crushed. He can be locked in a room to drown, he can be eaten by a spider in this hallway, or make it to the lair. Knuckles can be turned inside out, or he can fall down a pit by heading back the way you came and get chomped by whatever this thing is. There's no constantly respawning to beat a problem, it's exploring to find all the secrets, and I think that's the perfect way to handle gameplay. You never lose the tension, but there's still agency, and of course, the art and visuals, it's practically unbeaten. The repixeled version is probably the best looking Sonic.exe game, but even the original holds top 5, and it does do those fourth wall breaks interacting directly with the player. The only possible missing thing is a changing background or a TXT file to bring that feeling of the game having its own agency, but who knows what might have come had this game been finished. It's the game. It's the one. It's the cat's pajamas and the whole kit and caboodle. It's a lame ending, but it's the S. And with that, we're done. I believe that's 57 games reviewed in total. So, was the video's title accurate? Was this a nightmare? Was every spare minute of my life for an entire month being spent playing Sonic.exe games torture? Yeah. I mean, it got pretty good at the end there, when I just played all the good ones, but that bit where we just played these and these, dude, that was like a week of my life. Imagine getting home from a hard day at work and settling down to play fucking Chronic.Kush. Yeah, shout out to our bottom tier spot, the undefeated Chronic.Kush. Completely irredeemable. Hated that one. Like and subscribe if you want more Sonic.exe and creepypasta game rankings, or if you're interested in the history of video game creepypastas, because there will be more to come. And if you want to know more about Sonic.exe, and you for some reason haven't already, check out my full retrospective on its history. Alright, now you can refresh the page and watch this video over again. I'll see you there.